Fish it jerks. That's me singing that too, by the way.
Jerks?
Fishy jerks. That's what I call all these people that are watching right now. They're fishy jerks. I don't know where it came from. One day I was trying to think of something and I just called them, well, you guys are jerks. You're a bunch of jerks. It was a joking thing and it stuck. And now they're all fishy jerks.
So like when I call Chewy a big red jerk, that's the same thing you're talking about, jerks.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I understand why people love you.
You got to keep them on their toes, Hey, everybody. People are still trickling in. So while they're trickling in, I'm going to give my normal spiel here. So Mr. Biggs and I, we're going to have a conversation. We're not going to be looking at the chat, the whole first part of it. It's just going to be Chris and I talking. The second half, then that's when we open it up to questions from the chat. We'll get you guys in here and asking some questions about Chris. Also, while I've got you, if you're interested in coming up here and having me interview you, Rico at Rico Stan, I'm going to drop it in the chat. And again, you don't have to have a channel. If you're a part of the Fish Fam, I'm interested in interviewing you. As long as you're a decent person, I want to know more about you. I know Chris
is one requirement.
And Chris got through that. He's not exactly a decent person, but we allowed him to come up anyways because he is a superstar.
I was seriously vetted.
We had to go through a lot of hoops, to make sure it was okay. Chris, thanks so much for being here, man. I really do appreciate it. I've enjoyed your content for so long. You've got a very specific type of aesthetic. And I don't know, you do a great job on editing. I mean, it's beautiful. It's very professional.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
You do an awesome job. I love it. You've got so many different things. I never wanted to keep isopods before until I saw you. Not you, but your isopods. You don't look like
now you want carnivorous plants, apparently, for you and your wife.
Yep.
You got the perfect room for it. You got jungle room going on there.
You saw that comment, huh? Yeah, I watched that pitcher plant thing.
That's one thing that I've always held near and dear, and I don't know if that's a Canadian thing. I don't know. It's just I just respect the fact if somebody's going to spend 6 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes with me watching something I made, and they're going to also say I get 500 people do that, and 30 of them have the decide to actually write something to you. The absolute bare minimum least that I could do is acknowledge it, read it, and respond. Have a conversation with it. That's already one of the whole purposes of doing this.
That is very Canadian, because I don't think you guys are just too damn polite. I'm surprised you haven't told me sorry yet. We've been going a whole 3 minutes and I didn't get a single sorry yet.
I did have poutine today at the airport, airport
right.
Poutine, that's at a whole new Canadian level.
Good or bad?
It was all right. They called it a deluxe poutine. Like normally a poutine is just really crispy French fries, and they're usually double fried. So they're fried once and then they're fried again to make sure they stay crispy. Gotcha. And then you put cheese curds on them. So if you've been from Wisconsin, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And they're the curds that float on top when you make cheese. And then you cover it with gravy. And mine also had bacon in it, not Canadian bacon. Nobody here eats what you guys call Canadian bacon. That's ham. So bacon, and it had fried onions on it. So it was absolutely delicious airport food. Nothing better than eating and then sitting in a very small food with somebody beside you.
Yeah, especially something like that's going to give you a little gas. I've never had it. I've never once had it. I live pretty close to Canada. I mean, there's only about 100 yards of land between me and Canada, but most of it's lake.
You've never walked that 100 yards. Well, is it because you're always doing live feeds day and night?
Pretty much, yeah. It's all water. I live on the southern shore of Lake Ontario, so I live right on the shore. There's just a little bit of land, and then it's all water. Speaking of that, I know you're Canadian. Where do you live at in Canada?
The shitty part.
There are no shitty parts.
Yeah. Well, there is. Everybody in the world has this perception of what Canada looks like, and it's usually a couple of certain postcards. It'll be a picture of Lake Louise or Banff, Alberta, with the mountains and this beautiful turquoise blue lake, and a little deer lapping at the water or something. This perfect picture. Or they'll have some sort of beautiful old building in downtown old school Quebec or something like that. No, I live in what would be basically the armpit. I live in Manitoba. So if anybody in our chat here, and I apologize first if any of you in the chat are from this area, but has anybody here ever said to the family, hey, you know what we should do for our holidays, kids? Let's hop in the wagon and go to North Dakota. It's never happened. And the reason this never happened is because it looks exactly like Manitoba.
Gotcha. Flat and cold.
I can drive, like for my job, I'm a sales manager for a certain territory. And my job is I live in Manitoba. We don't have states, we have provinces. So the next province over to the west is called Saskatchewan. And the next major city in that province, between there and Winnipeg, which is the city I'm closest to in Manitoba, I'm 40 minutes east of Winnipeg. That's a 6.5 hour drive. And there's not really much in between, and the road's pretty much straight. I could read a newspaper while driving. I don't, because that'd be illegal.
You wouldn't. You've never done that.
No.
But you could. And you have a big farm there in Manitoba. How many acres? No, it's not a big farm.
No, we are. Me and my wife are city people, and years and years ago, my wife, when she moved into our old house, which was my old house that I had with my prior wife, it was never really my new wife's. It was never really hers. So out of the blue one day, she said, "You know what we should do? We should sell the house, move to the country, and buy 5 chickens." It was a very specific number, 5. I've never owned a chicken. I don't know anything about farming other than all the stuff we've learned in the past 5.5 years. And we bought this parcel of land. It's 5 acres. We bought it. It had a house on it. The house is insanely modern. Like in Canada, I don't even have a furnace, which is insane. Like nobody in Canada doesn't have a furnace. I don't have a furnace. I have radiant heated floors.
Wow.
So I have this little unit about the size of a microwave in my basement, and 40,000 tubes of PEX in all my walls that run through this grid in the floor.
Wow.
I don't know anything about it other than the principles behind how it works. But if there's actually any maintenance supposed to be done, I haven't done a damn thing. We haven't died. We haven't frozen. So we're doing okay.
Gotcha. But I imagine it's got to be like a hot water or a water heater in some regards, that there's got to be some kind of buildup that happens at some point.
Basically, the nicest touch is like you can be outside shoveling the driveway and then cut in the middle of February, and then you can come in. As soon as you take your shoes off, your boots off, your feet are instantly warm because you're standing on the heated surface and it radiates up. It's a very, very super efficient way of heating.
Got you.
When you ask about the farm, we only have 5 acres total. So
it looks so much bigger. And I'm sure you hear that quite often.
Oh, daily. Big drinks. Big drinks, don't care.
It does. It looks bigger than 5 acres. Like I've watched, from your pond, and you show over to the beautiful house. It's a beautiful house. That looks massive too from when you show it. It just looks like a much bigger property. And I thought
I shoot pictures from like the deck out towards the pond, I don't have any neighbors behind me for over a mile. So nice. After my pond, I've got about 60 feet, and then there's the farmer's fence. And then I've got, I think, 3 full sections after that. And I could see the tree line. It's like a mile away. And none of that. There's all I usually ever have is beautiful sunsets and cows. That's it. That's all I ever see that way. And then to one side, I have his feedlot. So there's nothing there as well. And then beside that is like a marsh for half a mile. So like I have next to no neighbors around me at all. Which Beautiful. Is probably good for neighbors because, look at me, right?
Yeah, I can imagine. Now you've got the what kind of cows are though? The hairy, furry cows, chewy and
Scottish Highland coos is what they call them. They don't call them cows; they call them coos. I don't know why, because they can't pronounce a W, but it's a cow. But they're Scottish Highlands. We have Chewy, the big red jerk. He's a standard Highland, that beautiful ginger color. We have Bella. She was the first one, and she looks white, but she's called Dun, D-U-N-N. And then they just had a baby this year. It's our first baby, and that's Merida, named after the girl in Brave, the Disney show Brave. Gotcha. Remember, I have 4 daughters, right? So it was bound to happen. And because you breed a Dun to a classic red, you're going to get what they call yellow. And Merida is a direct in between mom and dad.
Gotcha. And you've also got Kuni. Is that how you pronounce it? The pigs?
Yep. Yeah, they're a breed of pig from New Zealand. Basically, they're like the Madagascar cichlids. These are animals that don't have a hope in hell of survival in their native range because they're stupid. And like a kuni pig, if you were a hunter in New Zealand and you just called out, "Here, piggy," it would come running out of the woods to flop over at your feet for a belly rub. They're wonderful. They're wonderful. Every animal that we have, though, besides them, we only really have we have a trio of turkeys, and Stanley's a jerk, and we have chickens and guinea fowl. But it's really just the pigs and the cows that are the main animals. But all of them would be like something that you would have at a petting zoo. But you just have to be respectful. Like Chewy is still, he's probably 1,600 pounds now. He'll probably gain another 200 pounds.
Wow.
And his horn spread on him would probably be about 4 feet now from tip to tip. He's a bit of a force. And if you've never worked with any of these type of animals, I've worked with a lot of dangerous animals in my life, like in the wild, like snakes and alligators and stuff like that. But when you're dealing with an animal like this, if he just nudges you a little bit, you're going to move.
Yeah.
Whether you want to or not. It's like being nudged by a van.
Yeah.
And the male pigs, the boars that we keep, the kunis have one trait, being super, super gentle and docile, particularly the males. But they also develop two very, very large tusks. And they can be dangerous in the fact that they are just so docile. When they come running up to you and they flop over, they could literally cut your leg open because that tusk is it takes about 3 years before it starts to show outside, changes their smile, and it starts pushing out. But after 3 years, once it starts getting there and it starts being evident, a lot of people just cut them out, and it's easy thing to do.
Okay, I was going to ask about that. And what's their names? It's Vader.
Vader's our new boar. Well, we just changed. If people look back and watch any of the farm videos that I've done over the past, we had a Harriet and we had Hamlet, and then we had Luna, and Luna was Harriet's baby, and we had all the litters thereof. They were all unregistered. And so basically we wanted to, if we only wanted to have a small amount, we wanted the best of the best and maintain the integrity of this breed, because this breed it's no longer rare, but the problem with this breed is it's being muddied the world over. And there's only a few people that are real dedicated, passionate people that are trying to keep this breed integrity alive. And they're all over the world. But the whole gene pool for kunis came from about, I think it was like 13 or 18 individuals total. That was it.
Wow.
So we always try to breed as far away to get individual specific traits of a certain size snout and certain types of ears and a certain type of back line and a certain type of back end and the pastels and the way they stand. And there's all these different traits of conformity that you want to have. So we wanted the best. So we got rid of, liquidated kind of all the ones that weren't registered, and we went into pure registered. So we have Vader, he's our boar. We have Betty White, who's the long, white, curly-haired one. And we have Cheese. And yes. Cheese was named by my wife because she's got a mousy kind of a face.
Oh, nice.
All the animals. I've never named a fish in my life, but all the animals on the farm have names.
Gotcha. Well, let's keep on with that. So you've got the kunis. You got chickens still. Do you still have 5? How many chickens do you have now?
Oh.
Too many to count?
You've never lived on a farm then, right?
Never.
Okay. Anybody that's in our chat that's ever lived on a farm knows exactly what's called by chicken math. Apparently, 5 means anywhere between 1 and several hundred. It still counts as 5.
Yeah.
So when you ask the question, how many chickens do you have? Do you have 5? Yes. Apparently we do.
Gotcha. Chicken math. I'll have to use that. Nice. And what else do you have? Just farm-wise, not inside the house, but just farm-wise.
Well, we have a trio of turkeys, and Stanley's definitely getting eaten this year because he's an absolute jerk. It's like owning a male iguana or owning a chimpanzee. Once they become sexually mature, they just inherently turn into these jerk kind of an animal. That's just the nature of certain animals. That's the way they are.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then the females are fine, but whatever. They're not. They don't really do anything. They don't do anything for me. My wife, they're whatever. They're there. But Stanley attacks everybody now, and a 30-pound bird attacking a toddler is not something I want to deal with.
Yeah. Gotcha. So
And the
that's
only other thing we
outside.
have is guinea fowl. And guinea fowl are like a bird from Africa. They're ugly. They have a big, it looks like a Hindu man's toenail sticking out of their forehead. And they're loud and obnoxious. They're basically like think of, how obnoxious and noisy a peacock is.
Yeah.
Think of that on a smaller scale, like a chicken size.
Gotcha.
But
And what are
they're good for warning the whole farm about predators. Like if a coyote were to be there or something like that, they would let the neighbors would know that something's wrong. That's how loud they are.
Gotcha. And what do you use those for? Do the eggs and the meat, or what are those good for?
These are all pets. They don't eat anything.
Oh,
guinea fowl, we only have boys. Well, we have a whole group in another one of the sheds that we set up this year. So I think there's 10 coming up that'll be released shortly before winter. But we only have the original adults. We still only have 6, and they're all boys. Boys and girl guinea fowl make a different call. So you could tell which ones are boys and girls by the sounds they make.
Wow. Okay.
People do eat them. Apparently, it's very good. It's mostly dark meat. I've never eaten one. But the real benefit of guinea fowl, honestly, is that they will eat their body weight in ticks. They are the best bird for any farm, anywhere in North America, probably anywhere for tick control.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And I knew that you didn't like birds, so that's why I was a little confused on that. I wondered why
Birds
you
are
had
stupid.
them. Birds are stupid.
I don't
Well, they got their own
people.
math. They can't be that dumb.
All these fish guys, that once they get to a certain age, and I know I'm in that group now, they all start all of a sudden, oh, I want to take pictures of sparrows. Just say no. Just stop. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm a bird watcher. I love watching
Christ.
birds. I absolutely love it. Okay, so that was a great interview, people. Thanks. I love watching birds. I have a nemesis bird. I mean, a bird that I want to find, that I've never seen before. I love it. I love bird watching. It's just so much fun.
Popeyes?
What's that?
Is it Popeyes?
Popeyes?
They have good birds there.
The chicken chain?
I told my kids once I was going to take them to the zoo, and I took them to Popeyes.
That doesn't surprise me in any way. And you've been on the farm for 5 years, you said, roughly 5.5, 5 years or so.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I think we're in our 6th or 7th year.
Gotcha. And it's home. That's it. You're not looking to do this for another 5 years and move back to the city. You're set.
I told my wife when we did this, I have one move left. That's it. One move. It's in the ground. I'm not going. Yeah. I'm never doing this again ever.
I'm with you. I'm not either. And we don't live on a farm, but yeah, this is it. They'll take me out of here. I'm not going anywhere. I don't even leave the house on just regular days to go to the grocery store or anything. So you travel a lot for work. Can you talk about what you do for a living, or do you not want to go into that? Or what?
I used to travel constantly. My territory, just geographically, my company up in Canada has 2 major bases. We sell veterinary and pet supplies. And Canada is different in regards to the U.S., in regards to the population density. So we don't, if I owned a pet store in the U.S., I would be able to buy from all the different manufacturers somewhat. Depending on where I was, I might go through small distributors. In Canada, almost everything is exclusively done by distribution just because of the geographical, the logistics aspects of it. It doesn't make any sense. So I sell vet and pet supplies. Our company also does all the ag, large animal stuff. So if I need stuff for the farm stuff, which we're muddling our way through, I can access almost all that through work. But, the big brands that everybody's heard of, your Chuck It by Petmate, your Kong dog toys, Rogs, leashes, and collars, all those sort of things. We sell a complete line of everything, but pretty much dog and cat and small animal. Fish has really, really declined a lot in Canada, again, for the same purposes, the logistics. And also, a lot of these things about these proposals. I'm sure you saw some of these things I've been posting about the proposals that are trying to get pushed through. There's all these other challenges as well. So in Canada, my company carries Hikari. Everybody knows what Hikari is. We used to carry Cobalt, but we haven't carried Cobalt for a while. And we still carry Extreme for a while right now. And I think that's it for aquatics right now.
Gotcha.
It's just not much. Consumables is really the only thing. Like Canada, you got to remember, if I bring in something that's manufactured, if something is sold, a canister filter sold in the U.S., is $80. By the time it's brought into Canada and all the taxes and the duties and the shippings and all that sort of stuff, and then to be able to do distribution, that $80 canister is now, I've got to sell it to a store. You're selling it $80 retail. I got to sell it to a store for $120.
Yeah.
With the exchange and all those other things. So like, it's not even realistic for most of the distribution companies to carry certain products because you cannot compete with like an Amazon or a lot of those mail order ones. You just can't.
Yeah. And I hear that from some of the big, fish fam type stores. They just can't sell in Canada because of those reasons. The prices are just crazy.
Canada's a very different game. And like, as you say, like I travel a lot. I've been a lot of places all over Europe and stuff like that. And everywhere I've gone, I've been in stores, and everywhere I go, there's always little differences. There are little nuances. There are things that you might not, most people probably wouldn't notice it, but having been in the industry for so long and gone to trade shows all over there, all these areas, you see things vastly differently. Like in Europe, it's very different than North America, very different. US versus Canada is very different as well. It is what it is.
Yeah. But most of us don't get to see that. You're right. And I think it would do a lot of us really good to be able to see all those things, and not just in that industry, but just in how people conduct their lives in all these different countries, and just, it would be good for a lot of us to get out there and see all of it.
Well, the reality of let's just say the fish hobby or aquarium keeping hobby. We'll lump that in with reptiles and amphibians. We'll lump that in with vivariums and terrariums, and like basically your room that you've got behind you with fish and plants and all that stuff. Well, in Europe, you generally would probably go to one particular type of store to get everything that you have there, and it would probably be a large greenhouse type store. And you think of it, greenhouses make total sense, right? Because they have all the plants and all that stuff. It's all nature driven. It's people that really focus on gardening also make sometimes the best aquarists. They're also going to be the same type of mentality. It's going to set up a real well thought out vivarium for their snake or lizard or whatever, instead of just keeping it in a Rubbermaid tub. It's going to really think about that enrichment aspect of it. And the big difference between Europe and North America, not just that, there's lots of specialty stores and stuff over there as well. And some of them are over the top incredible. Like if you ever get a chance to go to the UK and you go to like Pier 1 Imports, Pier 1, I think it's called, Neil Woodward's store. Oh, it's insane. The stuff that he brings in, his connections and stuff. And it's in kind of like the Midlands, midway up, halfway up England stuff. It's just crazy stuff that this guy's got. But that's all he does is aquatics extremely well. And there's lots of those ones. He's just the one that I'm using as an example.
Sure.
It's not Pier 1 Imports. That's that junk furniture store. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Somebody will know the name of it. It's Pier something.
And I haven't even been looking at the chat at all. Like I said, real quick, let me before I again, there's a lot of people coming in. I see Jason just finished up and he's sending people over. Good to see you, Redfish, Bluefish. Again, we don't really look at the chat. The whole first part of the chat, the conversation, it's just going to be me and Chris just talking about stuff. The second half, we'll open it up and we'll talk to all the people in the chat. So if you've come in and said hi and I didn't respond, that's why. I don't want you to think I'm rude. You know I'm rude. I don't want you to think I don't like you.
They're leaving in droves because they don't give a shit about talking about farm animals. That's not like
well, there's 55 people watching, so that's a pretty decent, that's a respectable amount.
But and, the real big, when we were talking about the European versus North America thing, the real difference, and a lot of people may not like this answer, but it's factual because I see it on all scopes of all pet, not just aquatics, in my industry, is in Europe, everything they're going to pay a little bit more for automatically. You're going to have to apply generally for a lot of what I'd say larger animals to get not necessarily a permit, but it's kind of like a license. They kind of vet you a little bit to make sure that you're going to do it right. And everything that you're going to buy is thought of in a different way, in the fact that because in Europe, the population density is there. They don't have any extra land like I do in Canada.
Yeah.
So garbage is a huge issue. So manufacturing standards for anything in Europe is made to a different level than here. So when they buy an aquarium and a canister filter and all the accoutrements they need to set up their aquarium, it's all extremely well thought out. And that tank setup might cost them $1,000 there, versus in the US, we would find it on sale at Petco for $200 for the same sort of stuff. It looks the same, but it's not the same, because almost everything in North America has got to be faster, cheaper, and if it doesn't work in a year, I don't care. I'll throw it away and I'll buy more.
Yeah.
We live in North America in an extremely disposable society.
We do.
And I think that's where the pandemic has affected, and I don't mean to sound like a dick, but I think that's where the pandemic has affected every one of us, every single person in North America, more so on this point than on anything else. People lost their jobs. People, didn't have a lot of uncertainty and all that sort of stuff. But I think that one of the biggest things is the fact that where's all my crap? I just need crap. I need to go to the mall. I need to wander around. I don't need anything. I just need crap. Just send me my garbage. And we have become so dependent on Asian communities or Latin American communities to make us products that are junk.
Yeah.
And we know they're junk, but we're going to buy them anyways.
But they're cheap junk.
Cheap junk, exactly.
Cheap junk.
When did dollar store? You and me are probably in the same sort of age group. There was never a dollar store when I was a kid.
No.
It existed.
Oh, that's not entirely true. I mean, you had like the Ben Franklins and the 5 and dimes and stuff. But yeah, usually when you bought stuff, though, it was usually things that were going to last a lot longer. George Carlin has a great skit about, George Carlin.
Yep.
He has that thing about the. It wouldn't surprise me if you did. A place to put my stuff. That's the whole thing, and that's exactly what you were describing. We buy bigger and bigger places to store all the extra stuff we have. So we're actually going through that right now. We're getting rid of a bunch of stuff. We've got a huge dumpster. We're just getting rid of stuff. Get rid of it.
Well, I'll just use this as an example. And I'm not. It may not be information I'm supposed to share or something, but like, there's a company that started, an aquatic company that started with a few core people, and these core people started this aquatics company. They're all hardcore, passionate aquatic people. It doesn't matter what names. I don't have to say any names of anything. But the 3 of these individuals worked for a massive company and worked in aquatics there. And one of them was like the main developer of all the products. And the problem being is he could spend his whole life, he or she, could spend his 3 months or a year of his life designing this product and bring it to the board. And they go, yeah, we really, really like it, but we want it for 40% cheaper. So all of a sudden now, the integrity of that product, we don't give a shit about. Let's send it over to China instead of getting it made in Italy or Portugal or somewhere. Let's send it over to China. And it doesn't matter if it works as well as it should. At least we still get that sale. And North America looks at it as like, if I sell you an aquarium canister filter today and it breaks down in 2 years, they've kind of got that math in their head. I'm not saying they've actually talked about it, but I guarantee you they have in boardroom meetings is, how long does Rico Stan expect this $100 filter to last?
Yeah.
And every single one of us in this chat, every single person that's here right now would value that $100 slightly differently. And you'd say, well, $100, I got 30 tanks, $100, if it lasts me 2 years, I got my money's worth out of it. Versus, George over here in the chat. I don't know if there's a George in the chat, but George here would go he's a young kid, he's only got 1 tank. He's trying to go through university. He doesn't have disposable income. If that filter craps out, he loses all his fish, and this is a big deal. And I know it's the same dollar figure, but those big companies are probably looking at those products saying, if I can get $100 out of it, the average consumer, they expect it to only last 2 years. Let's make damn certain it doesn't last 4 years, because then they're back in the store again buying. Yeah. And by the time they come back to buy it in 2 years, it's no longer $100. It's $130.
Yeah.
Right.
And we see that in every aspect of vehicles, even our vehicles. At this point, our vehicles should be lasting way longer than they do. We've got all the bells and whistles worked out. We've got a lot of the safety worked out, but they make them to, only last for a certain amount of time. And, we need to work on that now and make them last a lot longer. But you're right. But there's it's like, I don't want to get too much into this, but with cancer treatments, they'd rather, instead of curing cancer, they'd rather treat it. Right. And I'm talking about pharmaceutical. Let's not get too much into that, because that's a whole, we need to stay
every single aspect of our lives, every single person that's here is affected by exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It could be drugs. It could be your fridge, your stove, your appliances at home, everything. Nothing lasts the way it should. And you're right. We all expect it to last certain ways. But again, everybody assesses that dollar figure differently.
Yeah.
To somebody that makes $100K a year, buying a new fridge every couple of years for $700 or $1,000, it's no big deal. But for a struggling family like you guys deal in the States, there's some. I've been in some areas in the States where I've never experienced poverty like that. Like I'm not wealthy at all. I have no savings of any kind. There, I put it in public forum. But I also, I take care of my bills every month, and I never have to worry about, is there going to be food on the table?
Yeah.
I'm very, very blessed and fortunate for that. But in the States, I've seen poverty like that. To me, that's terrifying. I can live like that.
And again, it's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down too far, but it's needless. We don't need to be like that. And I don't want to. We're going to run everybody off. People will start screaming socialism and stuff, but it doesn't need to be that way. It just doesn't. And it's not that hard to change, and we just don't want to
vote Rico. Vote Rico.
Yeah, I think I'd probably be assassinated like the day before I decide to run. Besides, I've got too many skeletons in my closet. It's right over here too. I can show you if you'd like.
Oh, this shit just falls out.
All right. So, how did you get into the sales thing that you're doing now? How did you fall into that? Have you done that type of stuff for most of your life? Because I know a little bit about your background. We talked a little bit, but
I'll give you the quick rundown.
Yeah,
I'll give you the whole quick rundown.
Okay.
I started playing drums at 3 because I had a relative that played music. So I started playing drums at 3 years old. At about 12, I started to almost turn professional, I guess. And I started touring and stuff. And it was all this stuff that had to be all signed off and legal and everything like that. Somebody's wondering what I'm drinking. Well, usually I drink Jack Daniels, but I'm on the road. So I'm drinking Kraken rum tonight. Because I'm getting fat as hell, which I know it doesn't look, but just to me, a tall, skinny guy with a giant gut, just not a good look. So I'm trying to cut out pop, so I'm drinking it with mango juice. And I drink it in a very large quantity.
That sounds really good because I love Kraken. That was one of my favorites. I'm a Captain guy. I like spiced rum, but
do you know one of these bottles makes 4 equal drinks? So it's perfect for an evening. So I started playing music. I started touring and doing all that stuff. When I was about 16 or 17, I outright stopped it entirely because I went to a pile of funerals, and music industry was death for a lot of people. The stuff was in the 80s and 90s. It was just in your face all the time. Drugs were prevalent all the time, suicides and all that stuff. You can't take somebody that has no education. You can't take a kid. I'm not talking me, but like this is the average musician. They don't care. They get C's in high school. They didn't care. And they play a musical instrument, and then they get signed, and then they're thrown out in the world. And these guys haven't a clue how to even tie shoes. And all this stuff is just thrown in their face. So I've seen the absolute horrible, horrible side of the music industry, and being super aggressive and super compulsive at everything I do, which we'll talk about in a bit when we start talking about the critters and the animals and my channel and the success of my channel, why it's going the way it is, all that stuff. We'll talk about it. You'll understand that just that momentum for me has to keep going. So I stopped at cold turkey. I walked away from it. And, I'll be brutally honest with people. This is not something most people would ever know, but legally I got my contract. I got all my income and stuff like that. And I basically had a large surplus of cash at 16. And I went out and bought a brand new car. So I'm going to say this is probably 87. And the hot new car at the time up here was the Honda Prelude. I think it only came out. It was only hot car for a kid. It's not like I went out and bought a Bentley. Come on, let's talk reality here. So I went and bought one of those cars. I owned it for about 3 days. And you're talking a kid who's a drummer, who's a spaz. I am the absolute poster child for what they would call kids today that get diagnosed with ADHD. Like Biggs is moving all the time. The drummers, they're spazzes. They're always doing something. I'm hopping and my legs are going all the time. To me, I should have been sent to school with white milk and a butter sandwich and nothing else. That's what I should have had. Just calm this kid down. This kid's insane. But so I had that car for 3 days. I didn't know anything else other than the rock music lifestyle. So I would drink a bottle of booze a day. and I drove that car and I smashed it into a wall. Nobody was hurt. I'm really, really thankful. I'm truly blessed that that never happened. But that was the hell of a wake-up call, getting charged with that. Nothing serious, because we're talking, I no disrespect, should have been hard. The penalties today are way more severe than they were back then. But dealing with something like that, the harshness was, it was just a wake-up call. And I went through all the programs and all the courses, and I never ever had a problem ever. I've never been one of those people that this is the first drink I've had, I don't know, 2.5 weeks. I go home every day. There's liquor cabinet stuff there. If somebody came over, you stopped by, we would have a beer, whatever, I can have a beer while I work on the tractor for 6 hours, whatever. But
Yeah.
I've never had any issues or anything like that. I've never had any problems. Never, ever had a problem since in my life. I started playing music and going and doing studio recording. I did that. I'd fly down to LA and do some studio recording and stuff like that for use in TV and commercials and all that sort of stuff. And then I kind of got out of that entirely. And then I kind of dabbled with the idea of going back to school, going into university. I kind of fell into working at a pet store. And I have some very, very dear friends from that I still have, that I worked with there for many, many years. And then I eventually go back to university to work on a degree. And I walked away from finishing my botany degree with the lesser degrees in different things like ichthyology and stuff. And I walked away before finishing my final degree, about 6 months, maybe 3-4 months before I was completely finished. I just walked away from it. And the reason I walked away from, I've never regretted it. I walked away from it because I refuse to be one of those people that just I just get put in a peg hole. I'm a peg and I just get put in a peg hole. And I had somebody that ended up teaching labs for $20 an hour back in the day. And she was like the world's leading expert on wolves. And I thought, this is embarrassing. And to me, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to be me. I'm going to do exactly what I did with the other stuff. And I'm going to have fun. So no regrets. I worked at pet stores. I worked in the grocery industry. I worked in the grocery industry real fast until the point I became the head of produce procurement, which meant I bought all the grocery produce, the fruits and vegetables for an entire chain Canada-wide.
I didn't do that, but I was a produce guy. I worked at a chain, and I was a produce manager for a place. I didn't get that high, but so we got that in common.
Doesn't matter what I go into. I go like full tilt, full bore on everything. And then I had kids, and then life kind of changed. Life had to change, right? When you have kids. My first daughter was born. She's now 21. She was born with an extremely rare up here diagnosis, was called arthrogryposis multiplex congenita, and it's a severe handicaps, but only physical. She's smarter than I am. She's a super whiz. She graduated with honors in grade 11 out of grade 11 and her first year of college in the same year. She did the same in grade 12, degrees in 2 different places at the same time. So she's just super, super smart. But she's always, again, been put in that. I keep telling her, you're not a peg in a hole, because you don't let them define you.
Yeah.
She's defined as handicapped. She's not handicapped. She's smart. She can do anything she wants. Yeah. She has physical limitations, and that's it. Gotcha. And then I had another daughter, and then me and my ex-wife, we separated, and then I met my new wife, and now we have 2 other daughters. So I have 4 kids. And I live in a farm, and life's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Do you still have a drum set today? When was the last time you sat down at a drum set?
I still have 2 kits at home, but I don't have any of my endorsement stuff at all, like from years and years ago. Gotcha. Everything, the minute I kind of stopped, everything was taken away.
Gotcha.
I have 1 kit that I bought from the drummer of anybody. I don't know if anybody here from Canada would know who Kim Mitchell is. Kim Mitchell was a Canadian icon, rocker kind of guy. I don't know if he ever did anywhere Go for Soda or any of those. Anybody ever heard of Max Webster? This was the bands that he was the leader of. He was a big Canadian guy. He's old now, but I bought a kit from his drummer, and it was a touring kit, and it's insane to set it up in the house, but I just love it because I don't even have to open the windows, and I can let the neighbors 2 miles down the road know that something's going on. It's got a 30-inch bass drum.
Jesus. Oh, Jesus Christ. Excuse me.
It's all good.
So do you play often these days at all? I mean, is it something
I
that
haven't
you
even set up a drum kit in over a year,
gotcha?
maybe
Okay.
even longer. And the only like to me, but that's the one thing that's like that's the one thing that when you're high energy, it doesn't matter if I'm like in the springtime, I got to weed the garden. Well, normally it would take people a week to do it. I'll do it in a day, but I'll go like a madman until I'll be in pain to finish it, just to say I did it.
It's done.
Everything, I do everything that way. To me, I've been contemplating it the past week or two about I really want to set up a kit because once the kids, like my youngest daughter starts kindergarten this year, and that means there is windows of time when people won't be at the house.
Yeah.
To me, it's just a matter like it's so insanely loud, and the fact that I haven't played for years, I could tell you to anybody that doesn't listen to drums that it's automatically going to suck.
Gotcha.
Dealing with big snake bites, hand reconstructions, dexterity. It's like say people say like, oh, you never forget how to ride a bike. Yeah, but if you did like professional motocross and then didn't do it for 30 years and then got on a bike, yeah, you'll be able to pedal a 10 speed. I just don't know if you'll be able to go in the X Games, So, yeah, I know I could probably play, God rest his soul, Charlie Watts, absolute legend. I could probably sit down and play some Rolling Stones. But if I want to, if I wanted to put on something like different or like really technical, no.
And on that same vein, do you have a favorite drummer? Could you name a favorite? It's hard to do that, I know, but do you have anybody that really stands out to you?
I have a few that would be very, very influential to when I was growing up. And they're not necessarily from the genres of music that I would necessarily play or enjoy playing to. But big influences, probably the first influence for me when I was younger would have been Ian Pace, which was the drummer from Deep Purple. Yep. I grew up playing a lot of that European influence, kind of beat down rock, heavy rock, that sort of stuff. So I grew up that was kind of my real first introduction. And then I kind of morphed. And as I started developing kind of my own style, the players that I would enjoy the most would have been Tim Herb Alexander from Primus. It's basically like neo-Peart and comedy mixed together. It's very technical, weird little notes and different type of nuances and stuff like that. But everything has to play together. So it's, I like that sort of stuff. It's not necessarily busy or over the top. It's just really, really good. And then another drummer that I really, really admired, but that probably influenced my style, probably absolutely the most, would have been Stuart Copeland, which would have been the Police. Yep.
I saw them in concert, and I also saw Deep Purple quite a few times. Yep. But I saw the Police once with Madness. Remember them? One Step Beyond, Madness, and the Thompson Twins. Those three together.
I've heard of the bands. Madness. It wasn't that. Were they ones that had that song called "Our House"?
Yep.
That's literally the only song anybody knows by them.
They also had One Step Beyond, which was one of their big ones. They were ska, One Step Beyond. They were good in concert though. It was good stuff.
Sure, but they were.
Police. The police were amazing though. That was a great show. I mean, Rush. You didn't mention Rush too much, but I absolutely love Rush. I saw them 3 concerts in a row, and they always put on a very technical show that sounded just as good as the albums.
Yep, always have been though. But that's what people expect too.
Well, the Police were sort of that same way. They just were very crisp and clean, and just the concert was amazing. I felt like I had headphones on. I mean, it was just that good. Just
the thing I don't understand, and I know it's all about money, but like some of these bands that are out there today, like no disrespect to any of them, your voice is going to change. But like if you sing a certain type of music and you can't even remotely do that type of music anymore, stop.
Yeah.
Van Halen, good example. Motley Crue, good example. Some of these guys are just bloody awful. And they were people that, like I went to every concert as a kid. Like I loved these guys. And but come on, man.
Yeah. You got to realize at some point that you just don't have that same thing. It's just like with athletes, it's the same exact thing. Especially for singers, especially for them. That you can't run as fast as you used to. You can't, it's the same thing. So people need to realize that
But when we talk about music and influence and stuff like that, like to me, if I were to set up a drum kit, and it will, The reason the drum kit is not set up right now is because I've shown you guys in videos when I've done the updates, the status of my basement. Literally, it's a pool table. There's that Buffalo Head cichlid aquarium. It's a 75-gallon tank. It's literally on the ground, on carpet, in the family room, right in front of a pool table. And the pool table is higher than I am of stuff. And it's all stuff that used to be in the fish room. But I took the fish room, the lair, and took it right down to the concrete floor, put flooring down, and I've built every new stand, and everything that's gone back in there is different. And it's modifying, and it's changing and morphing as it's going along. And things are, this was originally done, and now it's changing again, and it's still fun, but it's also working full time. Now that I'm traveling a little bit, farm, it's just the stuff will happen when it happens. But once the drums get set up again, I love, and you people like it or not, there was an album by Michael Jackson. Was it called Thriller? Is that the one that had Beat It? Billie Jean? Is that it's what I'm talking about? Is that the album?
Yeah, Thriller. Yeah.
That album was recorded without a drummer. And at that time space, that in that era, that's when drum machines were just starting to come out. Like it was brand new. Back in the day, if me and Rico Stand were in a band, you had to play in your garage to hone your skills, kick out this guy and get this guy and whatever, and you hone your skills. And then you start playing clubs, and that's the best you can do until you just keep hounding and hounding and pounding until you eventually, hopefully one day, maybe get seen by somebody. Nowadays, I could be a grocer at a grocery bagger at a grocery store, and I could have Pro Tools and a computer and a laptop at home, and I can make an album and send a finished album off to somebody.
Yeah,
that's what it's like today. And I'm not saying it's any level of change or disrespect to any artist that creates. It's still just creating. It's just that it's a vastly different playing field than now. But if I were to set up drums today, I would play to those type of albums that using electronica, not because they're fake drums, but electronica, what happens is a computer never gets tired. A drum machine never gets wasted, never gets tired. It never slows down. It never speeds up when it's got adrenaline. It's constant all the time. So I would put on Crystal Method, a lot of that type of electronica groove type stuff, drum and bass type stuff. And then I will just let it play. And it just gives me that time thing. And that time signature allows me to concentrate on a time signature and then create. But I want to do it just for the exercise. To me, just a half hour of that is better than a half hour says, oh, you should go swimming. What? Where do you go swimming? Frozen. I'm going swimming. Oh, you should go to the gym. Why? Because there's people there, sweaty people. No, I don't want to do that. But I could set up drums and have some fun,
Yeah. And you don't have to see anybody. You can. You got me right there.
That's better for them. That's right better there. For them. Not as much for me. That's better for them.
Oh, that's funny. We're already 48 minutes in. How are you on time? We talked about an hour.
I can go till 2 a.m. I don't care.
Jesus. Well, I don't know if we'll go that long, but okay. Just want to make sure because I wanted to ask also.
I got nothing else on today for you, brother. That's it. Just you. That's it. And as I say, I'm in a hotel, and it's literally, it says it's 7:19.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep.
So that's all it is. Go to whenever you want.
That's a lot of pressure, though. That's a lot of pressure. I don't know if we can keep going that far. I don't have any Kraken. I've got water.
Go get something.
I can't do that anymore. You probably don't have any other hobbies though besides the farm. Like you said, you got 4 kids, so you probably don't have time for other hobbies other than the animals and the drumming a little bit when you can do it.
Apparently, you never saw my video of the Room of Sadness, but I have an entire. That's what we call it. I don't understand it. The room doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how it started. It just happened. And I have an entire room in my basement dedicated to it now. I just every time somebody comes over, I take them in there and they go, "Ooh, this is super cool. This is weird, nerding out." And I'm like, "Yeah, I have no idea what this is all about." But basically, you don't know what I'm talking about, do you? You didn't see the video.
I
Yeah.
haven't.
Remember at the beginning when he was saying, he says he loves watching my videos and how all this, but yet he doesn't know what I'm talking about the room.
I don't. And I'm an honest person though, because I could have lied and said, "Oh yeah, that's horrible. That's
Okay. Well, when I was a kid, when I came back, I told you when I kind of stopped playing music and stuff, and I came back and I was living at my family's home and stuff like that. I started working at a pet store. I started getting animals. And I was keeping iguanas and all sorts of crazy stuff. And then I started doing venomous snakes, and it was insane. I had a tegu lizard, but the one that you don't see anymore, it was black and gold. Tufanambus teguixin. I think it's from Colombia. I don't know. There's usually a red one and a white one, and I don't know. I just remember mine was gold. And I had a water bed. That shows you how cool I am. I had a water bed.
Well, it wasn't that cool. I had one of those, so it couldn't have been that cool.
And I put like a 5-foot filing cabinet at the foot and a 5-foot filing cabinet at the head. And I put this tegu's cage on top of it. So to get into bed, you had to sit on the bed and lay down and then roll underneath. And this animal would dig. He would sit there digging at night. And it was like that movie. I don't remember what that movie was. It was in like the 90s. There was that horror movie where people were being buried alive. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so, yeah.
Like you wake up in the middle of the night like, oh shit, I'm in a coffin. No, I'm not. It's just the damn lizard above me. But the reason I was telling you that is one of my animals knocked over a heat lamp. You got to remember, back in the 80s and 90s, there were no reptile supplies. Zoomed didn't exist. None of these companies existed. There was no reptile products. It was such a brand new area that I had a street light from the city. I'd got this reclaimed street light thing. That's what I was using for light and heat and whatever. And something happened that a light bulb fell and the light bulb broke, but the filament didn't break. This is what the fire department told us. Now you guys kind of know where this is going.
Yeah.
But basically almost gutted the upstairs of our house. And what was the point of that? I have no idea.
Probably a dead animal, I'm assuming?
No, animal was fine.
It was you started out with the sadness.
Oh, room of sadness. That's right. So, that's right. That's good. See, you're good. You're good at this. The room of sadness came about is when after the fire, the only possessions that I had left of my entire childhood, my original drum sets that I had left that weren't stuff, signed drum heads, drumsticks from people all over the world, guitar picks, concert shirts from all over the world, any sort of memorabilia, gone. I was in Boy Scouts as a young kid, and you made that blanket that you wore at camp with all the badges from all over the world, and you went to the jamborees, all that gone, everything gone. And the one thing that I had also as a kid that was absolutely probably the most cherished thing to me as a kid was I was born in 1970. So in 1977 or 78, the first Star Wars movie came out, and that was a game changer.
76.
Was it 76?
Yeah.
Somebody
I remember.
Because I think he's wrong.
Somebody look it up. I think because I remember going to the Dollar Theater in 77 to watch it.
Yeah, I think it's 77 when it came out.
Yeah, we'll find out because one of us is right.
But I remember like that whole thing, and people that kids can't relate to this at all. If you're not in the age when this sort of stuff happened, I saw the first Star Wars movie in the back seat. No, sorry, in the back of a station wagon, like a family station wagon. So that's basically, for people who don't know what a station wagon is, it's got the front row of seats, then a back row of seats, and then like the back of a pickup truck with the top on it where you threw all your crap. That's where the dog usually rode. And the suitcase. Well, that's where I was with the dog. And then the rest of my older brothers were in the middle seat, and then my mom and dad in the front. And that's where we watched it at the drive-in. You couldn't rent it. There was no VHS. There was no beta. There was nothing. No DVD. Nothing. None of that existed. So you could only watch the movie once and go, I remember it all. I was there. That's it. Because that's all you get.
Geek Boy says 77, and I trust him. There you go. So you were right. So I must have watched in 78 at the Dollar Theater because it was the next year.
Like how he made most of his money. I don't know if people know most of it. I'm not a fan on that level. It's just I know this one little fact is George Lucas made most of his money in the fact that he took care of all the licensing of all the product, which most had never been done. There was never any Saturday Night Fever action figures or like, you know what I mean? That never existed then. There was G.I. Joe or Barbie. If you were a boy, you got this. If you're a girl, you got that. That's all there was. Star Wars was kind of the first, and those things hit pretty fast. There's a fabulous documentary, and I'm going to sound like also a super nerd, but it's how things were made or the toys when we were kids or something like that on Netflix. And there's one episode that deals with the Star Wars. There's one on each of them. There's one on Transformers. There's one on all the different things. There you go. Why is he green? What did you do to him?
It's an original. It's the sun. See his body is different colored than the arms. He's one of the originals.
Why did you do that to him?
I didn't. That's just how he's. This guy's, almost as old as you are. So he's just, the sun has aged him differently.
I have all those still, but mine looks proper. Just saying. So what happened, and the reason that I'll tell you about the Star Wars thing is I had probably, let's say, a dozen or 15 of the original Star Wars figures. They're not worth any. Once they're out of their cards, I'm not one of those guys. I don't care. I'm not. To me, I was a kid. These were toys, and I played with them as a kid. These things formed who I was. These are the ones that started the insanity.
Yep.
But I had all those, and they were literally the only thing of my entire childhood that survived this fire. And I had about 12 of them or 15 of them in a metal tackle box. And I don't know where it was. It could have been in the basement. And besides just the fire, we didn't have just the fire. We also had multiple floods at our house. We weren't in a floodplain. We installed a in-ground pool at some point when I was a kid, and it crushed something on the side of the house and formed these cracks. So whenever we had a massive rainstorm, the basement flooded. Gotcha. And that's where I lost a lot of stuff as well. So all these things, so the basic bottom line, the only thing I had was these Star Wars figures. When all of a sudden at one point in time, my new wife, I think she went home to visit her family or something like that. And I had all the other kids, but all the older kids. And when you got 4 kids of varying ages, you can't all expect them to all want to watch Barney, Sesame Street, or whatever the show is of the day. Each one of them has their different thing, right?
Yeah.
And so when I only had the older kids, it was like, we can do stuff. So we watched all the Star Wars movies.
Yep.
All the Harry Potter movies that we had, all the Lord of the Rings, all the Raiders of the Lost Ark. We watched all the ones that the little ones couldn't watch. It was awesome. And then basically one day, one of them said something about Archie comics. So we went to a comic store. And at the comic store, I still remember those 8 figures that I had, or 15 figures. I walk into this place and it's like, holy crap, there's stuff everywhere. But it wasn't just stuff. He was creating stuff. The stuff that didn't exist. And that was the thing that appealed to me more, because I knew nothing about doing it. I'd never built a model. I'd never done anything like that before. So it didn't matter. It was just something that was entirely new to me. And I jumped into that with total abandon, and it was absolutely bedlam. It was crazy. And now I have what we call the room of sadness. And in that room, there are, I don't even know how to describe it. They're like bookshelves. And they're 6 feet tall with 5 shelves on each one. They're glass with metal. And they're 6 by 2. And I think there's like 8 of them in the room. And then I also started manufacturing out of all the parts, all the figures that they never built. So I concentrated on like scenes like the cantina scene in the original movie. I'd make figures that they never made.
Wow.
And then, you fast forward that, and I was actively collecting and actively buying stuff, like everything. But I also wasn't that purist. Like I said, I wasn't collecting it for the value. I had the original Millennium Falcon as a kid.
Yeah.
It was cheesy and junky compared to the super cool one I have now. The new one I have now is this monster thing with all sorts of sounds and does all sorts. The only problem being is I don't know what the hell you're supposed to do with it. It's too bloody big. It's gigantic. I don't know what to do with it. So I created the Room of Sadness, and everything went in there. Now, when we lived at the old house, and as I said, spring gardening would come up, I could do all of the spring gardening at our house in the city in a week, in a weekend, a day. And then once a week, just go around with a hoe and clean it all up. It's good. And then the only other thing I didn't do YouTube. I didn't do any of that stuff. I kept fish. I had 3,800 gallons of water in the basement, all automated. And I started doing this. And when we moved to the new house, it was like 12 giant Home Depot totes of stuff.
Wow.
And then one day my wife went away to visit family in Saskatchewan. And we've been moved in, and I never touched the Star Wars stuff. I thought, oh, I'll take care of that. So basically, I painted the room so it's like imperial gray and blood red. I didn't do any stripe. I just painted some walls that color. I put a shelf up. I put all these shelves along the wall. I had all this stuff already, and I built everything and set up the entire room in like a week, part-time kind of what I had. And I've not done anything in it since. I haven't had time. It's still there. I'm still interested. I've never had time. Like, to me, that's what people that don't do YouTube, that don't build models, whatever it is. You can't just say, your wife can't just say, okay, well, go. You got 2 hours, go do it. I can't. You just can't. You got to kind of get into that mindset. And you got to be ready for it, right?
Yeah. You got to be motivated to do it. You got to. What about these? You were on those. Did you ever have any of those?
I don't know what that is. No, I don't think so.
Doesn't look familiar.
I liked Battlestar Galactica. I remember that came out. I'm not one of those. I'm not either Star Wars or your Star Trek.
Yeah.
And to me, there's no in between. I was a Star Wars guy. Star Trek to me at that age, when I was a kid, was what my older brothers watched. And it was like super cheesy with their polyester outfits, like the old show. And when it came out, the newer stuff, I just didn't care because Star Wars was way cooler.
So if you happen to get a box in the mail from somebody named Patty, do not open it. Throw it right in the garbage because you probably just angered her. And I think she has access to anthrax. So
well, I have like the entire Jedi Council, a lot of the modern. So like what I was getting at about the Millennium Falcon is like I didn't care about the older one. I'm not like one of those purists. I just wanted the newer stuff. Because the newer stuff, the sculpts and everything, the detail on everything was way better.
Yeah.
And then I started building like each shelf at the old place. I started building like a full scene. So
Gotcha.
I build a Tatooine scene with the Tusken Raiders and the Bantha. And if you're not a Star Wars nerd, you guys are just signing out in droves now. And like, whatever the scene with the Jawas and the selling of the droids, or the cantina scene, build the bar, Jabba's palace, and build little scenes in each one of those 2-foot little shelves. And when we moved, I didn't have spots to take these dioramas, is that what they call it? Like all these boards with buildings and whatnot on them. So I trashed all that stuff.
Oh.
And now I just have all the stuff.
Yeah. Oh man, was that hard to do? Because a lot of work went into it.
Yeah. But I have the whole Jedi Council from one of the, and I'm going to go on record right now. And this is going to, people that like Star Wars are going to hate me because I don't care who owns Star Wars. I don't care what they make. I'm going to like it. Except I'm not a big fan of the cartoon stuff. I don't really get into it the same way. It's on Netflix. It's like a 16-minute episode. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? And it got started. It's too short. I just can't get into it that way.
Yeah.
But
the Bad Batch is pretty damn good, though. The Bad Batch is really good. I've
watched like 4 or 5 episodes, and I've just not really been getting. Like to me, it just looks no different than the Clone Wars stuff. It just never appealed to me.
Gotcha.
But like when I do the creating and I build those figures, I used to be on all these forums. Remember forums? That shows our age too.
Yeah.
And I used to be on there, like Imperial Shipyards and all these ones, and like I'd go and make a new guy. I don't know what the guy's name is. It's not like a guy I made up. I actually follow it. And then somebody say, oh, that's from a video game. I'm like, I don't know. He just looked cool. So I made him. And I have the whole cabinet of all these guys I made. I don't know 90%. I don't know their stories. I know nothing. But like for Patty, I have the entire Jedi Council from the 3 or newer movies, like 1, 2, and 3. I guess they're not new anymore because I'm ancient. But you know what I'm getting at. And I like them equally. Like I like everything that's come out. I like them all for different reasons. But for Patty's sake, I have the entire Jedi Council. And who's in the dead center presenting to the Jedi Council? I have a Spock figure. And he stands right in the middle talking to the entire Jedi Council.
Well, she said, obviously Biggs has zero idea about the original series. I'm really surprised. I thought he was smart.
He's not.
He's not.
No, he's not. Just look at him. You guys should have been signed in like right at the beginning. You would have known he's not smart. He refers to himself in the third person all the time for no rhyme or reason. And I don't even know how that started.
What's the shirt? The Star Wars themed shirt. You have two of them. May the what be with you? May
Oh, I
the
got 3 of those made. I've had a shirt forever. I got it right here. It's right here.
because one of them I really wanted and I keep forgetting to buy it. Oh, which I didn't show you this too when you come back.
It's right here. Well, I got a bunch of video potentially set up for tomorrow. This is the main design.
That's the one. That's it.
Well,
Yep.
May the fish be with you is the first
Yes.
one.
Yes.
But I also got when I was doing it on Fiverr and I was getting my I'm not a tech guy, so I don't know. I literally have no skills at all. So I needed a nerd to help me make stuff. So they made that one, and then I said, "Well, let's do one." So I have one with a big monstera leaf. It says, "May the plants be with you."
Yep, I've seen that one.
And that one hasn't performed. I don't think I've sold a single one. Maybe it's just the colors. I don't know. I don't know shit about this stuff. And then I made one for isopods as well. May the isopods be with you. And she actually made the O's into isopods. And I think it's super cool. Oh, that's an old one. That's awesome.
I made sure to wear it tonight.
The only reason I changed, you want to know the reason I changed from that stuff to the other ones? Is I kept thinking, there's no way anybody is going to want to wear a shirt with a picture of an old dude on it. An old dude going, no way.
You know, you've got this shirt. Zen Ginger, could you do me a favor and throw up my shirt real quick? Let's just show. We'll show you. You got a great
I've
shirt.
seen your shirt. Your shirt. Somebody was just wearing it the other day in one of your feeds.
So you've seen it. Okay.
Your picture there. It was this gigantic old dude on it.
It's just this huge fat head. You know, I have a friend who's a comic book artist. I don't know. Friend is maybe a little extreme. He's an acquaintance. Charles Seed Dowd, Dowd. Follow him on Twitter. Great guy. He does. He has like a web comic and he does some other graphic novels and stuff. He made that for me. And I've had that t-shirt probably for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And I probably sold 7 or 8 of them. So,
multiple people tell me, "Hey, Biggs, you're perfect. You should do Twitter." And then I go to my kids. Everybody's telling me to do Twitter. And my kids go, "Oh, God, Dad." So I'm on Twitter now. This is really funny. I'm on Twitter. You're gonna love this because it's super funny. I gotta find it on my phone. I just laugh I don't even know what the icon looks like. What the hell's the icon look like for Twitter?
And again, everybody, anybody that's new, I do see most of the normal people. Normal? I don't think normal's the right word, but I see the regulars in here. And but for anybody who's not, and we haven't been talking to the chat, that's how it's sort of by design. Now we're an hour in, but you know, the first part is just Chris and I talking, and we will get to questions in the chat real soon, I promise. But that's by design. So we are going to open it up to questions from the chat. So if you got questions for us or for Chris, hold up just a few more minutes and we'll get to those.
So no, I'm wrong. It's not Twitter. Twitter's beyond my thing.
TikTok.
TikTok. So I'm on TikTok now, and it's super funny.
Everybody's saying, who wants to be normal? Far from normal.
I'm totally lying now, but I'm going to show you. Look at how massive. I am huge.
4 followers.
And the thing that was the funniest, I thought there was only 2, and it was my wife and daughter. So, I basically doubled. So
yeah, that's good growth. I haven't even made a TikTok. I'm not gonna.
No,
I'm not gonna dig into it.
Like I'm not a tech guy, and now we'll start easing our way into the fish talk and answering questions and stuff, I guess. But like the TikTok one made sense to me in the fact that I could take a snippet of something when I'm traveling. I can shoot a 10, 15-second video of some fish swimming. I can go and throw it in my editing program that I do everything with, and all I do is just cut all the audio out entirely. So it doesn't matter if there's a kid throwing up in the background. I can just cut all the audio out entirely, throw my logo. I have a modified version of my logo at the end, and then that's it. And I save it. And then I go to TikTok. It's a wonderful platform to use because I could take that little snippet, 8 or 10, 15-second little thing, load it into TikTok. I could search for what's the popular music at the time that's being used on TikTok. And just as long as it's something that's appropriate, right? Like I have one with piranhas in it. So I have the Jaws theme, and then there's all these little, I don't know what to call them, stickers, or I don't know what they're called. They're little things that you put on them and stuff. And I got a little animated subscribe button. The whole process, my wife goes to bed early. So like we go to bed like 9:00, 9:30, and she's younger than me. So it's not an age thing. Just saying. Yeah, there's Zen Ginger sharing my TikTok thing. So
Nice.
after this, oh man, I'm gonna be all puffed up in the chest. After this, I'll be at 6.
You're gonna blow up. You might even hit 10 today.
But the perfect thing about it is I can do all that stuff. And I did like 8 or 10 of them one night while my wife was asleep. I put my headphones on, takes nothing. I do it all. They take like 3 minutes at a time. And the coolest thing about them is you can integrate it that as soon as it posts to there, it then opens up Instagram, which is big for certain things.
Yep.
And then Instagram, all I have to do is put my tags and stuff, which is something for me as a copy and paste because I have it saved in my notes. And then Instagram saves it to my Facebook Mad Aquarist page. So it's like click, click, click,
one
done.
step
And it's in like 3 spots. And I'm like, that was awesome. But the problem I have here is I don't have the ability or the time to get any sort of consistency going. Because like to me, if like when I used to manage a bunch of Facebook pages, if you're not posting every single day, just something that people can interact with, you fall off of their feed. And I'm assuming all the other ones are the same way. So you have to post on each one of these like once a day or once a week or whatever. I have no consistency. I will go from nothing to like 12 videos.
Gotcha. I just have no desire to do it in any way. I just not.
These people start liking my
Well, there you go. You're going to blow up. We're going to make you go to. We're going to get you to 30. We're going to get you to 30.
Is this where you start showing that scene from Jerry Maguire? Like, show me the money.
All right. Maybe we should open it up to the chat here. Otherwise, I have a feeling we're just going to keep going with this for another hour.
If you want.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Again, for new people, it's by design. We don't deal with the chat. That way we can focus and sort of, get to know more about Biggs. But anyways, let's see. Any questions at all for Biggs? If you would, please just, do the @Rico stand and let me know. Here they come already. So Pompeii Ranch, good to see you. Favorite fish? You got a favorite fish, Chris?
Oh, I don't know. I have lots of favorite fish in every group. My favorite killifish would be Fundula panchexia stedi. My favorite anabantoid would be Macropodus opercularis, which is the paradise fish, which is a fascinating fish with a fascinating history. I sold more of those when I worked at anybody here in this group that's ever worked in a pet store. Anybody that's ever worked in a pet store, worked in a fish department, knows that betas are probably the #1 selling fish out of your store. At the store that I worked at, I sold more paradise fish than I did betas.
Wow. And where are they from? Where are they native to?
China.
Same places? Okay. Yes,
it was the very first tropical fish ever brought into captivity, but it's actually much cooler water, so way better suited to life in, say, a larger bull, because they get bigger. They're a good 4-inch fish. They're just as aggressive, so you're going to want to keep males singly down the road. But the problem with betas in captivity with most people is really the temperature is the big issue, right? Because like you're going to keep it in a bowl in your house, and you go, oh, well, my house is this temperature. Yeah, what do you do in summertime though? Yeah. It's not that temperature. You crank the AC, and it doesn't work.
Yeah,
I sold tons of these fish, and the nice thing about it, from anybody that does work in the industry will understand. Beta back then would cost $1. You'd sell it for $6.88, $7.99, something like that. And everyone says, "Oh, that's robbery." No, that's just reality of running a retail store.
It is,
But I could transship paradise fish, and the boys are the ones that get all the big flamboyant finish, same as a beta. The females are just as nice; they just don't get as flamboyant, and the body shape's a little bit different. But I could transport a bag of like 200 of them and land it at the store, where each one would cost me like $0.25. And then I would sell them for $1 more than a beta. But I would never, ever get them returned, ever. Versus betas, every 10th beta you'd sell, you'd get somebody coming back on a warranty, like their fish died. Gotcha. I never had anybody come back with a paradise fish.
Gotcha.
Ever.
So just a heartier fish all around.
Yeah. Like some say, I saw Elisa Alishan, AS. She said they're
Alashon,
great.
yeah.
It's a great tub species. She's 100% correct. She also mentioned earlier that she was at Reef to Rift when
That's
I
actually he.
spoke there.
Sorry, he. Alashon.
Alashon? Okay.
Alashon, yeah. It's a male. That's
Yeah.
okay though.
Oh,
I'm sure he won't care.
and he was at Reef to Rift, which is a store, a Scott Mauer's store. I spoke there about 4 times in a row. Great store. And they came in second place because he couldn't pronounce the name, or sorry, he couldn't spell the scientific name of the Inca stonefish. Do you know what the Inca stonefish is? That would probably be one of my favorite cichlids just because of its name. It is such an awesome name. Sven Kullander, the Swedish ichthyologist, gave it such an amazing, amazing name.
What is it?
Tuantin Suyua Makinsatsa.
Bless you.
When you look at it, it's like, where am I, in a Russian town? Like, what is this?
I know Pseudomagil luminatus. There, that's my scientific name that I know for fish.
That's
Almost
a Clearwater
everything else I
rainbow.
use
It's one of the little blue eyes.
Yeah, I've got some right here next to me. Awesome little fish. Oh, and if you happen to see something in the chat that you want to interact with, jump in. But otherwise, I can read the questions to you, however
Anything
you would like to do it. RB was going to ask what your favorite movie is. That's his regular question, and but he already thinks he knows what that is. Is Star Wars your favorite movie?
The first one would probably. I'm not saying it's a favorite. I have lots of movies. I'm a big movie buff. I'm waiting for my new projector, but I have a 14-foot screen in my basement.
Nice.
It was one of the things I wanted to build, and we haven't been able to use it because we haven't had a projector for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I like big, epic movies.
Yeah.
Bravehearts, Gladiators, Lord of the Rings, anything like that.
Gotcha.
I don't want my projector to be used to watch,
Waterboy.
whatever, like kids stuff. Like to me,
Gotcha.
like we're just watching kids shows and stuff constantly.
We see that'd be perfect for you guys where you live too. But we use it. We have a projector we use outside. We put a big sheet on the side of the house, and we go in the summertime and we do movie night outside. So, natural aquariums. Ryan, has Chris's botany studies aided him in the growth and propagation of aquatic plants?
Yes, I got my with the Aquarium Society of Winnipeg years and years and years ago. To give you an idea that mentality, the way I work with stuff, I look at fish and plants as a puzzle. Every single one of them is a puzzle. If it's a plant that I'm going to try and flower or get seeds, that's my goal. And I do everything that I can with all my knowledge, all my tasks, everything to get that thing to happen. But with fish, it was just breeding. The minute I would figure out that piece of the puzzle to get that fish to breed, I lost interest in that fish. So I always had a circle of people that would move stuff around, and I was always changing stuff around because the minute I cracked a fish, it was done. It was gone. But like to me, I did a series. I wrote an article. I used to write a lot years and years before children. I used to write for Aquarium Fish Magazine, I think it was called, and Tropical Fish Hobbyist, not as often. FAMA was one. I don't even know if these magazines are around anymore. But Aquarium Fish was probably the one I wrote the most for. And I wrote an article. I know it was at least 2 issues, maybe 3. And it was all on, long before it was common, doing the pressurized CO2 type setups.
Oh, gotcha.
And to give you an idea of when I started doing that, we're probably talking 88, 89, 90 is when I was using pressurized CO2 in an aquarium.
Gotcha.
But that started because there was a book called The Optimum Aquarium, and it came out, and it was basically a book put out by the Dupla company. And I don't even know if that company's around anymore, but they just changed the way that I kept aquarium fish. And I still, to this day, if I were to choose a filter option for an aquarium, I would automatically be a wet dry filter with biomedia. 100%. Gotcha. But most people avoid that because it takes up space. But it was a big article series that I did. It was at least 2 or 3 issues for aquarium fish dealing with aquatic plants back then.
I actually have the issue of Tropical Fish Hobbyist that you were in when you're. I'm sorry. Wayne was.
Yep.
Your
that was just recently. Yep.
Yeah, your friend that passed away.
Yep.
But yeah, I was very surprised. I was just scanning through and I looked down. I was like, that guy looks like Biggs. without the big long beard, and it was you. You called it the baby beard. So it was just sort of cool to see you in there.
I have Wayne Leibel. He's right here all the time. He's right here. He's right on my leg.
We can't see what you're pointing at. It looked like you were pointing at something else. There we go. Okay, that's better. I wasn't sure where we were going there for a minute. I was like, wow, you guys were close.
Well, the story, if people care to know the story, but Wayne, to give you an idea, you guys have already heard about how crazy I am and like how intense I am. If you've seen my videos, I bring that intensity kind of all the time. That's just my personality. That's the way I am all the time. If I go to a fish convention, it's not an act. It's not a personality. It's not me on or off. This is just the way I am all the time in everything I do. And as a kid, I started working with fish and I had to figure it out. It didn't matter what it was doing. I would just try and figure something out. And if I was trying to work with a species and something wasn't working, I would just get intense to try and solve it. And Wayne literally, this is before the internet, before anything, I attended a convention. I don't even remember what year it was, the first one. And I met Wayne Leibel. And he kind of, and it was like, to me, he could tell. It was like meeting the one rock star, movie star, the one person that like, this guy's a real person. You know what I mean? Like, it was just insane that I could be sitting here meeting this guy. And he treated me like we were relatives. And that friendship that formed in that instance stayed right until the day he passed away. And when I was a kid of like 12 or 13 or something like that, I was doing a dissection of a fish in my basement with Wayne Leibel, the well-known scientist, on the phone at my parents' house, guiding me through this. He taught me more about sciences and understanding natural systems and how they work than any course I ever took at high school, just because he showed that little extra initiative.
Gotcha.
And that's what we need teachers to be and everything. But like, that's why, like, to me, he meant the world to me, because he took that wing and he like, the seed was already there. He was the guy that was watering and tending that garden that grew this menace.
Yep. Gotcha. So he's partly to blame for what we've got today.
Oh, very much so. Very much so.
I did watch your memorial thing that you did for him. I was there when you did that live stream. You had all the people come up and tell stories.
Well, I did that. That was a very spur of the moment thing, because I knew I had to do something. There's another thing that's in the works right now, and it's entirely up to the people to cast their votes. But because of Wayne's passing, I also put myself in as a nominee for the board of the American Cichlid Association, something I was involved with many, many years ago. But because of Wayne's passing, I basically had decided right then and there that I have to get more involved in something, some aspect of some way of giving back that benefits a bigger audience.
Gotcha.
And so I threw my name in that. There's like 10 people that are not, and they're all, well, I know every single one of them almost. Yeah. They're all great people. So,
yeah. And, and that what you just said was why I was a little amazed that you agreed to come up and hang out with me for this time, because you didn't know me from Adam, and you're so well connected, throughout the.
I'm not connected. I'm no more connected than you are. I'm just truly blessed and very, very fortunate of the friendships that I've made. Fish, we have the fish family. We call it the fish family for a reason.
Yeah, yeah.
There's Adele.
Yep.
This is family. These are family to us. To me, 100%. If I go to a convention, I've been to conventions where nobody knows who I am. This is before YouTube, before any of this stuff. And I'll go to a convention and I'll be the banquet speaker. And I will sit in an elevator with 12 people and they will treat me as if I've got leprosy. And then, 2 days later, I will speak. And these people come up as if we've been best buddies for decades. And I will be friends with them for the rest of their life. I may not be the first one to go and when I go to places, because you got to remember, I travel constantly. When I go places, I'll meet 200 new people every weekend. Sometimes it's crazy.
Gotcha. And
a lot of these people become friends for life. And I always say, any club I go to and I speak at, if I have a good time, I will always come back. And I've only ever had what I'd say really 2 kind of negative experiences. But honestly, one of them, I would gladly go back and I would relive the exact same experience to do it again, even though it wasn't that great because of the individual that was there.
Oh, gotcha,
You know what I mean?
gotcha. I do love this community. I know I've only been involved with it for just over a year, and it's made my quality of, and I say this all the time, but my quality of life has gone way up since I've met everybody and just been involved with it. It's just amazing community. So GRB would like to know if you have any shingleback lizards.
No.
He's from
All I
Australia.
have for reptiles at home, I don't have any intentions of doing a lot of lizards and stuff like that. My room is not that big. Like my room would probably only be, I think it's only about 12 feet by 11 feet, the main space that we call the lair. And in that space, aquarium wise, there's a 160 gallon right now, which has been gutted and changed. And you'll see the first part of the video coming out soon. I did another, there's 3 videos of it coming up right away. And then the other one is the other 160. And a lot of people keep asking me about the buffalo heads. What's happening with the buffalo heads? Well, let's talk about the buffalo heads for a quick second while we're on it. The buffalo heads are in a 75 gallon tank. And if you've ever seen that one particular video, this will talk about how important friendships are to us in our fish family. But those buffalo heads, a guy showed up at my local fish wholesaler with a bucket and dropped off a bunch of them. And the guy that owns the stop, there's a good friend, dear friend, Spencer Jack. He says, do you know whose fish those are? I go, what do you mean? He says, this guy has been breeding those fish for so many years. Those are direct descendants of Hugh's. Hugh was one of my absolute best friends. He was a Trinidadian that moved to Canada, never lost his accent, and he was a world-class chef. We have nothing in common other than fish, but we were like so close for that aspect. You know, like we just became such fast friends. And I found out that all of a sudden, boom, these fish were directly descendants of Hugh's fish. Hugh's fish came from me because I was probably one of the first people to bring buffalo head, Steatocranus casuarius, into Canada back in the very early 80s when it was extremely challenging to even keep it alive. But I've had them set up in that tank and they're thriving and they're breeding. And I have these plans for this 160 gallon tank, building this giant, real, naturalized style West African riverine tank. And everyone keeps saying, what's the update? What's happening? Why haven't you done the background? Why haven't you done this? Want to know the real truth? Because I can't get any damn fish. I have very specific list of groupings of fish.
Oh, gotcha.
I want certain characins for this aquarium, but I don't want the standard ones that everybody would assume, being the Congo tetra. I would want, I helped Jay Wilson. Everybody here probably knows who Jay Wilson is. Mm-hmm. He's a good friend of everybody's. He's a great fish keeper. He's an absolute blessing for our industry. But I helped him set up a kind of a West African themed tank. And he set it up with 2 different types of buffalo heads and Congo tetras and synodontis cats. And he's now got a puffer. And it's a super cool tank. I can't do that. I have entirely a different idea, because if I did that, everybody'd know I'm doing the exact same thing he did. So I've got something way cooler, way better, because Jay sucks compared to me. Like he's just not going to be able to do what I'm going to do. But I have Oliver Lucanus in Montreal who can get fish, but right now you just can't get fish out of West Africa. So that tank is kind of on hold, because unless I have some sort of substance put in there, me going and doing the background means nothing. Yeah. So that's going to sit and wait. But the reason I'm telling you is that there's other tanks that are planned for the room, but they're going to be smaller scale. But as soon as the basic setup of the room is completed, we start building the big tank. And that big tank is 12 feet by 6 feet by 3 feet. Full wet dry filtration. It's already started. I've already started getting the fish. Now, you guys the guy asked the question about the lizards. No, I don't have that type of lizard, but I have my toke geckos, which you guys have seen when I landed them, and they're getting a Pallas, which I've released video 1 of the new Pallas build for them. There's actually 3 videos that are filmed for that one, and then we're ready to move them. And then I have 2 Amazon tree boas, a male and female. They're separate right now, but they're going to be going in a gigantic vivarium-themed bioactive build. That's going to be about 6 feet by 2 feet, 6 feet by 3 feet. It's going to be upstairs about the size of a refrigerator in my living room. And the only other thing I have planned is I wanted to get some red-eye crocodile skinks, because they don't require any of that supplementary heat. electricity is expensive in some of these areas, and a lot of these animals need supplementary heat, and it starts adding up, right?
Yeah.
So the isopods need nothing, millipedes need nothing. A lot of these things don't require a lot of this extra stuff. So I'm trying to be a little bit more energy conscious of some of them.
Gotcha. I'm very interested. I'm trying not to, but I'm leaning more and more towards those isopods. I really just watching how you put the stuff together, and those rubber ducky ones. Those are the ones. Those are the ones that really push me over the edge.
And they're the absolute worst choice for you to start.
Yeah, they're tougher ones.
They're still expensive. They're still desirable, but they don't have the breeding or the replication rate of a lot of the other ones.
Gotcha.
I'll let you in on a little bit of a secret. Is about 2 years ago, before pandemic, I was in Florida speaking at the Pasco County Aquarium Society. I spent about 3 or 4 days with my dear friend Dan Sharifi at Cichlids of the Americas, and then he drove me to Sandy Moore's house. And I stayed with Sandy Moore, the president of Segrist Farms, for about a week. And we toured and we did all sorts of amazing
stuff. I saw where you're going with this.
But what I did is what nobody knows about is Sandy asked me one day, and she said, I think it was a Friday. She says, would you do a talk for my staff? And I said, what? I'm like, this is like the day of, right? I'm like, whatever you want. I will do anything for you. You are so awesome. I will do anything for you. I says, well, what do you mean a talk for you? Said, well, normally on Fridays, we always have we Skype in a speaker of something. It's always this, most of them are boring or industry stuff. We just thought something that you do with some humor and stuff would be just right up their alley. And I thought, this is the opportunity of something I've been trying to do in the industry for a while. And I asked her, I says, how much freedom do I have with this? She says, you do whatever you want. So what I did in that talk.
Does she know you? I mean,
I stayed at her house for a week. We've known each other for a long time.
I mean, to me, that seems pretty scary to let you just say and do whatever you want. I mean, it seems like you need to have limits.
No. I'm working in comedy and doing different things like that. You learn the most important thing when you're a speaker is the minute you stand on stage, whatever you planned on doing, you're going to have to adjust it to the people that are there.
Know your audience.
All of a sudden, and I've had that situation where clubs have said that, oh no, it's adult, it's late at night and stuff like that. And you step in there and you have all sorts of adult related humor in your talk, and there's 4 kids in the front row. Well, but to me, I have to adjust it. I have to, right? But getting back to the thing with Sandy is Segrist just unveiled. Is it today? Today the 30th?
Yes, 31st. It was yesterday.
So I don't know if it was today or yesterday,
okay.
But in that talk, I put in about 12 slides of isopods. And the reason I did that is I had her entire staff at the Florida office, but I also had the entire staff of the other division in Atlanta, and I don't know the name of it. It's none of my business. It's just their whole company sort of thing. I had the whole company at this one little talk. Now, when I was in Europe at Super Zoo in Germany, which is the biggest industry trade show for pet in the world, it's every second year. When I was there, the one thing that caught me way off guard was how much more advanced they are with aquatics, but also just understanding nature in general. And they would have these booths for all sorts of beetles and bugs and isopods. This is 15, 20 years ago, I saw this stuff there. Like the giant rhinoceros beetles, these things. And I remember talking to the guy and he says, yeah, you raise this thing and basically I'll sell you larvae. And you take this little worm and you put it in a pail of mud and you stick it under your bed and forget about it for 6 months. And then you'll hear it rattling around. And then you do this for 4 months. And then all of a sudden, boom, and it'll pop into this thing and you'll enjoy this for 3 weeks. And then it'll die. But I thought this was so neat and cool to see it. I thought this would be insane as a new addition to the pet industry in North America. But being agricultural-based countries, Canada and the US, there's no way we would be able to import all these animals like that. And isopods fell into my lap kind of in a natural way. So when I presented it to Sandy's group, I did it in a way of showing them the ooh and ahs of how cool these animals were, because the trade in isopods is all kind of underground from basement breeders, and they're selling things from like dairy cows, which you could buy a culture for probably $10, all the way up to like these cool new tricolors and all these weird ones. They're selling the tricolors are selling 4 little. They're not bugs, but we'll call them bugs. They're selling 4 of them for $500 US. Jeez. That is insane.
Yeah. And
So I
people are
thought,
buying them.
but I thought if I could get some of these into the mainstream channels, and that's all it was. Sandy never said anything. And then out of the blue, Vegas just happened, the Super Zoo show. They unveiled it at the Super Zoo show. All the graphics and everything. They've got like 6 or 8 species. It looks super slick, and it's available to all their stores. Nice. So dairy cows, a lot of those introductory ones.
Yeah.
Because people aren't thinking, we're not just thinking for people that want to say, I want to culture isopods. No. What if you have a vivarium in the back there? It looks like an aquarium behind you, but if that's a big vivarium and it's fully planted and you have a weird animal in there, lizard or something like that, what if you could add isopods and springtails and those things to the mix, and they would clean up all his waste products?
Yeah.
The bioactive cleanup crew. That's the angle they're going after. And it makes so much sense.
Gotcha. And that's awesome. I did see your post about that, and I obviously didn't know anything about it until I saw that, and I definitely want to. I'm going to end up getting them. I can just tell. First of all, you've got them so organized, and they don't take up a lot of room, and they're just they can be sort of stacked up, and they don't need a lot. They're pretty easy. Some of them to take care of.
When I go on the road. Like I mentioned, when I go on the road, I always have I probably have 18 videos on my computer that are all in little snippets, because it's not like I just pick up the camera and film start to finish and then I post it. It doesn't work that way. It's all sorts of little snippets of random stuff. And like I went and did a video. It'll be like a teaser. I did a video with my dear friend in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. That's become kind of a world-renowned Coreodoris breeder. And I did a video with him like 2 years ago, and it was a huge video for me. So I went and revisited him and did all the stuff that people are asking for. But I have 152 videos and stuff in a folder. Do you know how long that takes to edit, to go through all that? 152? And I have to condense that all down to like a 7-8 minute video.
Yeah.
And I have to label each one. And that's a pain. It's a huge pain.
It's too much. It's just too much. And you're giving me anxiety just listening to it.
So just the 2 days before leaving today, in my little windows of time, remember I started making all those new isopod bins. I unveiled all those new bins. Yeah. Well, I just actually made the substrate, because a lot of comments is people actually asked me, can you give us the basics of what you do start to finish? Well, the problem being is most channels will say, okay, to make your substrate, you add 1 part of this, 2 parts of this, 3 parts of this, 1/2 part of this, and a pinch of this. You're not making a cake here. These are animals that are detrivores that live on the forest floor. They don't give a shit about this. I swear, but they don't. We are making it so bloody clinical. It's absolutely poor. I just don't get it. So basically, I made my substrate mix, and I made each of the individual tubs, and I put out all the ingredients, and I talked for 10, 15 minutes on all the ingredients and how to make my substrate. And I have all that footage with me to edit. And then I've also the next video would be setting up a tub. And I set up the Hoffman Segai, which are one of my favorites, the big Spanish ones. And I set them up in a tub. And I went through, so that's 1, 2 videos, and all that stuff's on my computer ready to edit. But I have videos right now. Where'd you go?
I'm still here.
Oh,
did I lose you?
Did I disappear? No.
No, you're there.
My screen I touched something and my screen just went.
Oh, no, we didn't see anything. We saw you doing this.
But so I have all that stuff, and all that footage is here, but I have videos right now scheduled till the middle of September already. So what I do is whenever I have these windows of time, you got to remember, last week was the first trip I've ever done for my job in 2 years.
Yeah. So
when I was at a hotel, I did 3 videos, edited 3 videos. That never happens. Never, ever, ever happens. And when you kind of commit to doing 2 videos a week, it's really, really, really challenging.
More power to you. Again, it definitely shows. Don't get me wrong. It definitely shows. But I don't do the editing. Once in a while, I throw my intro on the front of it, and then I just upload it, and that's it. That's all I do. I don't do. I pick up the phone and I say, okay, today I'm gonna look at let's see, these pseudomagills. And I look at the pseudomagills, I talk a little bit about them, and then I upload it. That's it. That's my whole process. But you could definitely tell. You could
No,
definitely tell.
those type of videos would be perfect to TikTok. Those short, like your Suda McGill's swimming in a planted tank, or you're feeding brine shrimp and they're eating for 10 seconds. That little video, and then literally you don't do anything else. I would probably, only editing I would do is I'd have a blank thing at the beginning for your logo, but I'd put it at the back, because whatever the beginning of the video is what they don't have a thumbnail. So it's the first part they're going to see. So if they see your fish in a tank as a close-up and it's only 8 seconds long, they'll watch it, and all of a sudden Bill goes, boom, Rico Stand, live on YouTube or something like that. And all you do is you just literally just click on a song and say, that's the music I want playing on it. And all of a sudden you'll have like Run DMC, doing music with your little rainbow swimming in the tank.
So I have a secret weapon. My oldest son is 30. He's an IT guy. And just this weekend, he stopped by and he asked me about taking a bunch of my content and editing it, taking a bunch of the other stuff I have and making some stuff and putting it out on different social media, because he wants to do it on his own as well. And he's going to use me to, so I will be doing all that stuff, but I'm not going to be doing the editing. He is.
Well,
I just had to raise him, but
my eldest daughter, Zoe, she's the one that's helped me absolutely immensely. But along with that same intensity that I have when you're doing stuff, when it's going good, that intensity is awesome. When it doesn't go good, that intensity switches to a chemical imbalance, and it becomes frustration. And then I don't want to be near dad for a while. It's like, you're back in the day when like when your dad had to do taxes, like once a year, dad had to do taxes, and everybody's in the house like, okay, we're just going to go outside. I know it's snowing, but we're just going to go outside and we're going to leave dad alone for the next 12 hours. We're going to go and stay at a hotel.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. And dad, I go from zero to like absolute volatile hero, like that, when it doesn't work. I'll give you the perfect example. Anybody that's been on my channel in the past, let's say the past 8 months, anybody notice that my banner changed? My banner before used to be kind of like most YouTubers, has kind of a picture of me and, a plant, a lizard, whatever, and, the Mad Aquarist words, and, do this or stuff. And look, it was clean and professional. It was great. And then a good friend of mine, Joe Rockwell, made me this super cool thing of this neon green mad scientist in a lair, super, super awesome thing. And he sent it to me, and me with my absolute legendary tech skills, I couldn't figure out how to make it work whatsoever. Nothing would work. Nothing would fit, because on your phone versus your laptop versus your TV, it's this or this or this or whatever. And it's all different dimensions, and it's a nightmare. So I didn't know how to do any of that. My daughter, she's like super, she does like code. She does all sorts of cool stuff with her computer. But I would ask her these questions, and it's completely out of her wheelhouse. I should have asked her, and to me, how to use a computer. You should just know how to do this. But basically, I should have asked her how to, to do complex arc welding. Because that's how, but to me at the beginning, I didn't know that, when you and I went to school, when they introduced the computer as a course you could take, it was one of those bubble little junk in the trunk kind of monitors with like neon yellow characters. And you had to type in code for 20 minutes to count 2 + 2. I thought this was the dumbest thing in the world. This is never going to take off.
Basic.
Yeah. But getting back to the banner thing. So that's where it sat. And on my page, I actually took his banner, even though it didn't work, and put it up there. So you saw like a knuckle and you saw green. There was no name. There was nothing on it. And I just left it there. I said, shit, I'm just leaving it there.
I didn't even notice that. I looked at it today, though. I was looking at it today.
So out of the blue, it's been bothering me for a while. I have a very dear friend, Johan, and he's out of the blue. I did a live feed thing with him, and he did this cute little drawing type thing. But he has such an innate talent, and I really hope he can get found by somebody that can just harness this innate talent that he's got. He should be doing like Hanna-Barbera cartoons. This guy has such a natural talent for the stuff, and the stuff that he puts together in like minutes is like this is ready for anything. And I just approached him at the end and I said, if you're ever up for doing an idea, I got an idea. I want somebody to help me redo my banner. And I shared him some examples and stuff. And he's been working on it. Then he had some health things. And literally it just kind of got put on the back burner for a while. And we haven't really chatted for about a month. I'm always busy. I'm starting to go on the road. He's busy. It is what it is. He'll sit there. It is what it is. And then out of the blue, I'm on the road last week. And it just got to the point and I was pissed off about it. So I went on to Fiverr. And if Fiverr is a service that's free, that you can put jobs on there for professionals all over the world that can do stuff. The only problem being is it doesn't mean they're going to do exactly what you want them to do. So you got to be super, super specific. The little intro piece that I have in my YouTube videos was done by a woman named Emily on Fiverr. And
cool.
It's not 100% what I wanted it to be, but it's way better than anything I could do.
It's damn good. I like it. I just assumed you made it, to be honest.
No, the only thing I wanted is I wanted isopods to move. At the end, I just wanted it to kind of shake and isopods ran away. That's all I cared about. And she made the whole thing. So I already had the logo. I handed her the logo. But I don't know how she did it. But bottom line is I wanted to have this kind of mad scientist lab. I was fine if I could just take the original one I had and load it, but it didn't work. And then this guy was making this one and it was looking super awesome and cool. We're bouncing ideas around and then, just kind of stalled. And that's fine. Life happens. I know that better than anybody. So I got pissed off. So I put it on Fiverr. I had 132 answers to my ad. Oh, I'd love to do. I can do exactly what you want. And I'm like looking through this. I go and look at their portfolio. There's nothing even remotely like it, which is 99% of the stuff you find on there.
Yep.
So I delete. And I finally just said, I'm going to send a note to the girl that did the other one, and I just want her guidance. She was very polite, very helpful. We talked about fish and other stuff because she has an aquarium. And I said to her, this is what I want to do. Oh, yeah, no problem. I can do that for you. Give me 24 hours. I says, I basically want exactly this. You can change it a little bit, tweak it a little bit so it's mine. I says, I want to put this, something along the lines of this in the corner, and I want to do this, and I want this on my shoulder. That's it. I send it to her. She says, yeah, just give me 24 hours. 24 hours, she sends me something looks like Disney on Ice. Like, I don't even know what it was. It wasn't even remotely like what we talked about.
Emily.
I sent it all back. I said, this isn't at all what I haven't paid a dime. We haven't even talked dollar figure yet because she didn't apply to my ad.
Gotcha.
So we did it again. And then she says, give me like 4 days. 4 days come by. I send her a note the next day, 5th day. I says, any progress? What's happening with that? She says, I've got it all done. I've just got to put the pieces together and I'll send it to you today. No problem. She's been wonderful before. 5-6 hours pass. She sends me the exact piece that I had before. And all she did was take like random cartoon clip art and add them. They don't match in any way. They look like a sticker has been put on top.
Yeah.
And I haven't replied to her since. This is insane. So then my wife goes, she goes, why don't you just try and use Canva or something? And I'm like, what? I don't know anything about this. So I loaded this Canva thing. I took the original art, put it on there, took the thing, put the words, stretched it, go to save it, tried to load it. It didn't work, but I could see where the marks are for space. So I have like 4 versions of it on my computer. And now my new banner is exactly what I want it to be. And it cost me.
Nice. Nice. I use that Canva too. It's a
I've
great
never
tool.
heard of it.
Excuse me. It's a great tool. You know what? Hold on one second. I need to, I got to get my waitress to bring me another drink here. Hopefully she's available. Sorry.
I'm just looking through the chat, see if there's somebody asks a specific question. Because I know the minute somebody asks me a question, I talk for 40 minutes and
you're good at that. Yeah, definitely. But that's okay because that's exactly what we're looking for.
That's exactly why I have to edit because videos are 8 minutes long. Like, I spend an hour and 42 minutes talking about a twig. Yeah. That's great. Now let's condense that down.
Way back at this was even before 8 o'clock. So we're about 25 minutes behind. Mr. McKenzie asked if you knew Chewy. Lunatic Fringe, Chewy.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know him personally, but he's been on my channel. He's been a big supporter in my YouTube channel or my live feeds when I used to go live. He was always prevalent. He's a very, very knowledgeable individual. Very knowledgeable individual.
Yes. Robert Tianaqua wants to know if you've met the Trailer Park Boys.
No, well,
Have you watched the show?
I've seen some episodes.
They
Where I live, we don't even have to me, granted, we've only been there for 6 years, but I don't have cable at all where I live. We only have Netflix and Disney, and I think we get Prime for free. But I'm not a TV guy. I never really have been. I like watching
doesn't sound like it with
movies. 2 hours, hour and a half, and I like that, but not all the time. My wife has her own business. She works full time, but she also has her own business at home. She makes a lot of silicone baby products. And she's constantly, her business is growing and she's doing it all the time. But she loves TV on in the background. So she will pour through, if you tell her, it says, oh, you should watch Lost. How many seasons? Oh, it's got like 11 seasons. Perfect.
Yeah.
But the only problem being is she won't watch anything until that's done.
That's what,
like she's watching right now. She's in second season. You know what she's watching right now? Grey's Anatomy. She's on season 2.
And there's like what, 20 of those?
We've seen them all before. She enjoys the show, and it's just stuff in the background that if she gets pulled away while she's doing stuff, she doesn't have to actually sit there watching it.
Yeah. And you know what? That's funny because my daughter and the newer generation, that's what they do a lot is they will binge a TV show over and over again. Like she's watched The Office like 8-9 times the entire series, Parks and Rec and stuff like that. So
we're watching together. Like she'll always say, do you have any interest in this? And if I say no, that means she's going to watch it on her own.
Yeah.
And like there's certain shows that we've watched, and when the season runs out, we wait and it comes out, we watch it again. Like right now we're watching, I can't think of the name of it. It's on Prime. It's the Sherlock Holmes with the Asian woman. That's
just Sherlock, right? Isn't it called Sherlock?
No. I don't know what it's called. One of your people will know what it is, but you know what I'm talking about. It's the guy and his dad comes in once in a while. It's a great show. But I can't remember the name.
Adele said, "I can't believe how well behaved Biggs is."
I'm not in charge.
Feel free, let your freak flag fly, man. And Canastillo said it's early, give him some time. There was a big question. You know what? I'm way behind in chat, but I did see something from Mickham. Chris, what happened? Oh, just jumped on me. What happened with the new killie restrictions and your vids about it? A follow-up vid coming? And he bought a pair of awesome fish.
Fundula panchex justedi. Fundula panchex justedi is the blue galaris. It's probably the most iconic of most of the killifish.
Gotcha.
It is actually the logo of the American Killifish Association.
Gotcha. Okay.
It comes from different locales, and each one of them is a little bit different. But the real popular one that's in the trade originates from the Niger Delta. But the killifish video thing kind of fell in my lap, and nothing really came of it. I know the individual. I wouldn't say we're really close, but I've spoken with him multiple times, met him at shows and stuff. And I reached out to him. I says, "Is it you?" And he says, "Yeah, it's him." He's now gotten his computer back. They found absolutely nothing. The problem being is the Brazilian government, and that's why the video in that series was not specifically targeting just killies. Killies was the thing that was at the epicenter of what sparked the whole thing. But the real thing is the fact that there's so much smuggling of all these species, which is one of the major factors why Brazil has recently changed from their positive list to a negative list. And all of a sudden now in the trade, you're seeing all sorts of aquarium fish from Brazil that you haven't seen for well over a decade. Like a lot of the weird pikes out of the Xingu system, that bright orange pike cichlid, Xingu 1, that hasn't been available for like 12 years. And now you can import it again. But because it wasn't on the list before, it means you couldn't have it. But like you can buy, any one of us can go and buy Columbia, or I'm sorry, not Columbia, but like Hypancistris zebra L46. We can probably, if you went to your store and asked your exporter to order you some, he'd order them. He could get them from Colombia. They're fully illegal. They're fully smuggled out. And probably 20 of them died in transit to get the 6 to Colombia to be able to ship out. Look on a map where the Xingu River system is compared to Bogota. We're talking like a 2-week journey on a boat, to get those fish there. But they've been coming out of Colombia for years. So how do we curb that, right? So
Yeah.
no, I don't have plans for another follow-up video. I had plans on one with I had a lawyer lined up, and I had plans as a follow-up with the most of them are not really interested. When that thing kind of happened, they all kind of went underground, and they basically, as long as nobody's asking, we're not talking about it kind of attitude. So I've just kind of let it be.
Gotcha. Amanda Jean would like to know if your wife or kids are involved or have any interest in the fish hobby.
I met my wife when we worked together at a pet store. And when I traveled to this remote pet store, I had kind of apparently, I did not know this, but apparently I had a name for myself that I had fired multiple fish department managers over the years. And I never met her before that I remembered. She worked in a different department. And when I came to town, she just became the fish department manager, and she was absolutely terrified that I was coming to town, because I never generally, like most companies, when the upper crust will come to town, they'll often say, "We're all coming to town, so clean up your store, do all this extra stuff. So when we get there, we don't get a real picture of what it actually looks like. We get this false image, but it makes us feel warm and fuzzy that we're doing a good job."
Yeah.
I never did that. I would just show up randomly, or like sometimes give them like an hour notice or a couple hours notice. We're talking stores that I'd have to fly to. So like they would panic, but I always wanted that real image. And within a half hour of meeting her, I gave her a task of setting up a display. And the way I trained back then, and I still would train the same way, is I want people to find their own path. You know, there's no right or wrong sometime with some of these things. Just if you have a reason for why you did it that way, tell me a reason. Cool. You know, we're talking pet products here. We're not talking, like installing something, technical data on the spaceship,
Yeah. Nobody's going to die if you do it different.
Yeah. And she did such a kick-ass job doing it. We just kind of became friends. And they're like, that changed the pressure right away. And then we kind of became friends. And she did some stuff. I remember the crazy fish stuff that she did back in the day. I've shared them before with other people, but like I remember showing up one day, and back then you used to get feeder fish, and you'd get sometimes you get crayfish in your feeder fish. You get like a little crayfish. It's just a Florida brown crayfish.
Yeah.
Well, she had somebody in the store came in looking for one of those electric blue crayfish that we used to get. They're illegal in Manitoba now, but that was the other province over. And she was out of those. So she told this customer that she just got in this super cool one called a cinnamon lobster. She'd never had it before. And she sold him this thing for more money than the blue one. And it was the feeder crayfish out of the feeder tank. But she was creative in finding, to me, that's not something I would ever train or endorse or say, yes, do that. Yeah. Somebody came in at one point in time. I was there again, and they asked for pond plants. And pond season here is very limited. They were asking for pond plants or something. And she says, I think an order just came in. Let me go check in the back. She went all the way to the back, went out the back door into the drainage ditch, and pulled a couple of plants out of the ditch, brought them in, rinsed them off, and took them to the room. Says, yeah, we just got these in, but that's all I've got right now. Does that work? And sold them. Like, it's insane. How do you even come up with that?
Yeah.
But since we've she started taking care of my animals when I traveled a lot, she took care of everything when I moved. We were talking at a point in time when I might have had 60 snakes. It would take you an entire day for feeding everybody at one time, once a week, or something, and I didn't have warm and fuzzy kind of animals. I always had, like a little bit of danger, So yeah, she's always been involved, but she has not really had any interest later in years, or as we got married, as we moved out to the country. She has really no interest in fish. She appreciates and enjoys watching it, but she'll feed. She's super supportive. I'll give you an idea how supportive she is. When all of a sudden at the Keystone Clash years ago, somebody mentioned, hope I can go again. I'd love to come back. But Keystone Clash a few years ago, I started realizing the one thing in fish keeping that I missed a lot was killifish. So I ordered a pile of killifish from all over the place. Had them
I just got to turn my camera off for a second, but I'll still be here, still listening.
Okay. And I went and got all these killifish, and I brought them all back. And you can't just keep one type of killifish. You got to have a lot of killifish to make it worthwhile hatching brine shrimp eggs and stuff. So I think I had, 30, 40 tanks going of killifish. Everything was great. The only problem being is my wife, when I traveled, would have to hatch brine shrimp every single day while I was away, hatching, feeding, cleaning, and doing everything. And then once a week, I would come home and I'd be the hero and I'd do my water changes on all 30 or 40 killie tanks. But we're talking little tanks. So the whole thing, the whole process of cleaning and doing everything took me maybe an hour. But she did all the work for that. And she never once, ever complained. And I'm not talking, did she ever complain publicly in front of other people? No, she never once even complained to me. She did it to support me. And I got out of killifish for exactly that same reason. I thought, this is fair. She's the one doing everything.
Yeah. And I've seen the videos with your daughter dealing with the isopods and stuff. She's into those. One of your daughters, right? Is it just one that's really into them, or?
Yeah, that's Paisley. Paisley's my youngest. Paisley's now 5. She has 2 isopod cultures, but she really is lost. She doesn't have a lot of interest in it right now. She's at the age and things are starting to change. She's starting kindergarten soon. She's kind of lost interest in a lot of that. But if I say today we're going to go out and exploring, it's just me and her. I don't want to go. But we get in the van and we get out in nature and we start doing stuff. She's right into it right away.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I'm not one of those, this is what we're doing. It's like, let's see where it goes.
Gotcha.
And it's not working. If she's not vibing it, we'll do something else, right?
Yeah. I miss those days. My kids are all adults, and definitely miss doing all that kind of stuff. Once in a while, I can get them all to come around and we go do a quick hike or something, but that's about it. So I definitely miss those days.
The Amazon tank, the Amazon tank, this big tank, the 160 gallon, that's all been gutted and redone and everything like that, has a group of fish in it that nobody knows about yet, and they have to be fed every day. They have to be fed. So it's not necessarily live food that has to be fed. I don't have to hatch or do anything. But Riley, my second youngest, has got a sign taped to her door that she comes out every morning and gets her breakfast. By the time she goes back, there's this sign. It reminds her to go downstairs and feed that tank. They have to be fed every single day. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll lose them. So that one there, until they get a little bit bigger, that tank has to be fed every day. So when I go away, she has to help as well. But before I went away, the past 2 days, if I took away all the video that I shot 3 or 4 videos, and I've got all the footage to edit those videos here with me now. I edited one of them mostly on the plane, and it was actually uploading when you and me were just about to start talking, and I actually canceled it because there were some things I wanted to change in it. But gotcha. I did that on the plane today, which it never happens, right? But if I take out all that video, that stuff, like to me, it's doing the water changes on those tanks, feeding the snakes, misting all the tarantula cages and changing their water dishes, and making sure that the vivarium's water's up and isopods are fed and stuff like that and watered. It takes, basically, if I had an afternoon, I could do it all quickly.
Yeah.
But we do it all in little snippets here and there.
Yeah.
Kids in a family, right?
Gotcha. You said, you mentioned earlier too that, or the other day when we were talking, you were really trying to get some fish footage while you were on this trip.
Yes.
That's
the biggest challenge. That's the biggest challenge for me, is just actually getting actual content. Because you might just want to do a video where you just talk about something, and I just want to have a fish tank behind me. Well, when I only have 3 tanks at home that have fish in them. 160, which nobody knows about. I have a tank, it's a 20 long on the floor. And the only reason it's set up on the floor is it has fish in it that I can't just give away. They're like one of the absolute rarest Central American cichlids. And it's not only that, it's named locale, and it was from Rusty Wessel. So I know I'm the only one in Canada that has this fish. I will gladly give it to somebody I know that I would trust to work with it, but I haven't thought of anybody, or there's no opportunity to give it to it.
Yeah.
The only other tank is 75, and it's got a hodgepodge of odds and ends and plants all over the place and the buffalo heads. So I really don't have any footage, and I've exhausted all my background footage of all sorts of other things that I've used in my vault of stuff. So I just need footage of stuff. So I reached out. I had about 8 people that replied to me while I was going to be here. And I says, I can accommodate. I literally need 15 minutes, but sometimes I'll go to somebody's place. Like I had one that was set up to do this week. And they replied to me yesterday saying that he's got a little bit of a blemish on his tail. So we want him to be at his best, this particular fish. And I have the whole narrative already planned for this video. But because it's not looking its best, we'll leave it for another time.
Gotcha.
That's cool. But I probably have at least 3 or 4 people that are set up tentatively for the next 2 evenings. And I'll
Oh,
just go,
gotcha.
15 minutes here, maybe it's an hour here. But it's fish family. These are people I've never met. I only posted on the Facebook page of the local aquarium group in this town and said, I'm coming to town. I'd love to be able to do some video, blah, blah, blah. And all these people replied. That's fish family.
Amazing. That's
But
amazing. What other community is like that? I've been involved in a lot of communities, and I've never just been involved in anything like this ever in all my years. I'm in my 60s, and I've never once been involved in a community like this.
Have you ever been to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting?
I have not. Is that what it's like?
I don't know.
You tell me. All right. We're past 2 hours already. Is there? I'm sure we missed a lot of questions from the chat. So if anybody's got any more, throw them in there for me again. Did you, or if you see anything, go ahead. If anybody's got any questions, please throw them in again. And we'll try and get those asked here real quick. And then we'll cut it off pretty soon because Biggs has had 2 of those big glasses. I'm sure he's going to have to use the restroom pretty soon.
No, I'm good. But while you're waiting on questions or while you're looking for stuff, I'm going to just tell everybody what's been happening. My channel, we talked about a little bit at the beginning, and you wanted to kind of know what was going on.
Yeah.
My channel, everybody keeps telling me my channel is going to be this, it's going to be that, and everything like that. And I'm honestly thankful if I have 5 followers. To me, I look at each and every individual that follows me as a close friend or family member. So I am honestly, from the heart, thank you, each and every one of you. And we can say, oh, you should be 200, 100,000, 50, whatever. It doesn't matter. The reason my channel is where it's at is because all of you that are here tonight know me generally for fish and the science behind fishes, with my background being in botany and then the summer one of ichthyology, and bringing that scientific side to the channel. And I love that aspect and that challenge. But the pandemic forced my hand, and it changed it, because where I live, right in the center of Canada, any fish that came in from anywhere in the world could fly into Toronto, which is a major port, or Vancouver to the West Coast, which is another major port. However, no airline carrier in Canada would touch any cargo originating outside of the country. So during the entire pandemic, and I've said this in some of my videos, yes, you can call me Biggsy anytime you want, we've only been able to ever access fish out of Miami. So that's predominantly southern Florida, which is extremely hard water, which is mostly African cichlids, which is great if you like African cichlids. Brazil, only one of them has been hot on and off, on and off. And the only problem with that is most of the Brazil stuff prior to the changes was mostly people just brought in the really expensive, sexy plecos, because the freight during the pandemic has been exorbitant. So you're not bringing in all the bread and butter or unique little cichlids and stuff. You're just bringing in those big, dicey dollar ones. And then the only other one that was hit and miss every once in a while was Colombia. So those 3 areas were not the areas of my focus or my study for fish. So basically, fish became non-available to me. Gotcha. You'd say, well, why don't you just order some fish online from somebody? Well, you can't, because we don't have the amount of population for shipping fish like that. There is no, like, Amazon Prime for me is still 2 weeks. Amazon Prime for you is like you'll have it tomorrow morning when you wake up. That's what it is like here in Canada. We just do not have the logistics set up. Yeah. It used to be 2 days for Amazon Prime, and it's never gotten back yet. It will come back, but it's not there. So with those changes, I had to force my hand. I had to change. And that's when we did the whole change of all the setups, of all the changes of all the tapes and the setups the way they were done. And we went big into reptiles. We tore apart the whole room. We went into all the spiders, the isopods, the vivarium builds, and all that stuff. And it encompasses every aspect of what I do in my life and in my interests. And then I've also added stuff with the farm channel in. But the fish is still very much the focus and will grow huge soon as that the fish room is kind of set up and the world starts opening up for me, that I can access stuff. So bear with me, it's coming.
To be honest, I like that you have such a range of content. I know people say, oh, you should have this channel for this content and this channel for. I like that you have all that different stuff on your channel. I appreciate that. I don't know if it's going to be isopods. I don't know if it's going to be fish. I don't know if it's going to be cattle. I don't know what I'm going to see. I'm always guessing. And I'm here for that, man. I like that.
The farm stuff, though, I think should be in its own separate thing. The farm one is just, it's when I put out I'm not a guy who follows any of the numbers. I'm not a tech guy. So I really honestly, I couldn't tell you. I've never really looked into any of the analytics and all these things and everything like that. I've been doing this for 2.5 years, and it takes me about 2 months to make about $100. I can tell you right now, I ain't doing it for the money.
No,
but I do enjoy it, and it's still fun. As long as it's still fun, I'm going to keep doing it.
I think people go to your channel for the Biggs experience. It doesn't matter if it's the farm. It doesn't matter if it's the fish. It doesn't matter, because you're giving us information about stuff that's interesting, and you do it in a way that is interesting. It doesn't matter what the topic is. It's enjoyable. I've never lived on a farm. I don't give a flying about a hairy cattle, but you know what? I watched every one of yours about Chewy.
But when I put out a video, if I put out a video on fish, on a topic of fish, it doesn't matter what it is. I rescape a tank, or I talk about an aspect of a filtration. It doesn't matter what the topic is. I will generally get somewhere between 500 and 1,000 views or more. If I put out a video on isopods, I will probably score between the 305, 600, 700 range. I'm huge in the isopod on YouTube, apparently. Who knew?
Big in Japan.
There's like 3 of us.
Gotcha. Well, I have a feeling that's going to get bigger here over the next few months because of what's happened with seagrass and just everything. I think people are going to start. It's just a cool, different type of hobby, and I don't know why, but I just have a feeling that's going to blow up. Ricky wants to know, how many different types of isopods do you have?
I honestly, the problem I have with the isopods right now is it's getting to the point that I have too many. I know people, they're like collecting. You want more and more and more and more and more. And I'm the opposite of that. To me, I have some isopods that I would gladly give it away to somebody, because either they replicate too fast, or I don't have, you got to remember, mostly isopods, the whole hobby of isopods pretty much started for the bioactive cleanup crew and the dart frog community that wanted to have these things as a food source.
Gotcha.
Well, once they started extrapolating, finding new species, it became this collecting. I got to collect them all like Pokemon. And I'm like, no, I don't. I don't want more than 24, 30 tops. And I'm probably close to that right now. Gotcha. But there's some that they go up and down. They go up and down. Like they go through where they're thriving. And that's the point I'm at right now, is like, if I don't go and set them all up in these new bins, I have already 2 species that have completely crashed on me. I have none. And it's because I just haven't been able to get to that point. Because you remember, it's not a matter of just going, people would say, well, just go and set them up. Yeah, but everybody expects me to film every aspect of it. Then you have to think about lighting and what shirt am I wearing today? Ooh, I have to do all these things, and I have to show all these products and do all. So it's a lot more thought process that goes into some of these things when you're thinking. Especially when somebody has asked me a specific question: can you do a basic video on how I do this? Yes, I can. You asked, so I will gladly do that for you. What do you do to make your substrate? I will do that for you. And now it makes a logical progression into it. But I have at least 2 species at home that the population is so heavy that I have to do something. Gotcha. But the problem is, on YouTube, do I be truthful? I'm pretty transparent and truthful about everything that I do with everybody. But the reality is like, to set up a new culture, I need 10 or 20 of them, and I put them in the new culture. What do I do with the other 10,000? I have no outlet for them.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, is going to sound, people may not like it, but if you're keeping mixed animals like I do, and I don't have animals that the lizards won't eat them, the tarantulas won't eat them, well, maybe I could take all the surplus and I could flash freeze them. I'm not going to be there by introducing them to the wild, but then maybe they can be a component of fish food.
Oh, gotcha.
Fish food, because it's just a calcium source, really. It's just an added diet, right? If it fell in the wild, the fish would eat it, but they probably won't. Some of them, I've fed some of the live ones to fish, but I would never film that, because some people may view that as being cruel. I would never feed a snake with a live thing, even a dead thing. I'm not going to feed a snake for video, because some people may view that as cruel. And
it's nature. It's nature, but I get it. Yeah, I get it. So what would you do? You'd grind those up and mix them in with some other stuff to make the fish food? Yeah. That's interesting.
They will sell some of the species. The problem is, some species they'll have die off anyways, and the colonies will somewhat self-regulate their population. But I have some species. I have one, like the dairy cows is explosive. And I have dairy cows in the regular, and then I also have them in Lavis in orange. It's the same animal. One's bright orange, one's all spotted. It's the same thing.
Gotcha.
But I also have one called Armadillidium granulatum. Like I go to pick up the container, I feel like I'm picking up 5 pounds of gravel. Like it's so much, it's so dense in there. And the problem is once they change the amount of waste product they produce is acidic. So once it changes the chemistry of their substrate and it starts to degrade, they will automatically have, it's like when your aquarium's doing fine, but you don't do gravel cleaning. You don't stir up the bottom. And all of a sudden down the road, everything's good. And all that waste product that has been healthy and converted to nitrate eventually just snaps overnight and your whole tank is cloudy and everything dies, right? Same sort of process. That healthy organic, it's all there and everything's good. And all of a sudden, boom, it's not good.
Gotcha.
They need to be maintained. In the wild, they would never deal with these things. Same as in the aquarium. So if I can relate the isopods to aquarists, and understanding if people like you and I, maybe you've kept fish for a year, maybe you've kept fish for 10 years. But like when you work at a retail store, you could talk about, you could take a 16-year-old kid and teach them how to test people's water and show them the blue tube and the red tube and the pink tube. That individual probably has no idea what's happening or any of the processes behind it. He just knows that if it's blue, it's bad.
Yeah.
They don't know anything of the chemistry behind it at all because that's not taught. They don't teach them that.
Yeah, the whys.
Yeah, but
why
that's
is it?
The background is that science side of it. So I love the aspect of talking about the isopods or a bioactive unit with a reptile or a vivarium or an aquarium, and then taking you out in nature and just walking you around in the forest and talking about the natural systems that are underneath your feet and just getting you to appreciate those things that are just there.
Yeah.
It's not natural to keep them in a Rubbermaid box under your desk.
No,
I can't.
No, so you have to do different things.
Stratification of the layers of 20 years of biomass. I just can't.
Mike, All Things Fish, said, how much did you have to pay Biggs to be on your show? So I can sweet talk him into mine. I'm not opposed to personal favors. I just took my shirt off. That's all he asked for. It was weird. That was it. I didn't have to do anything. I just took my shirt off and it was good.
Yep.
All I did was ask Mr. Biggs.
Anytime. I'll help. If I can accommodate, I'll help anybody.
I found that, and I've been very lucky. I've been blessed to talk to a lot of bigger fish tubers, or even not just in size of channel, but just in the sense of you're a celebrity. You are. Yeah. I know you're just like, I'm a regular guy. You guys all say that, but you're a celebrity to us in the fish fam. And I've been very lucky.
Only when I'm on an airplane, like the airplane I took today, they bumped me to first class. I was telling you, well, first class and everything else, there's no difference. The only difference is that I have a little bit more leg room, and they give me a snack box.
Ooh, that was it.
Literally the only difference. It's literally a little tiny snack box. That's the only difference. But the only time the celebrity status would come into play, or the ego aspects that would come into play, is like if I was on a big flight, like Winnipeg to Toronto or Winnipeg to Orlando or something like that, and by chance, if you travel a lot and you go to the airport, you see that board that has like initials and names on it.
Yeah,
those are people that are waiting to be bumped to first class, and my name's usually on there, and I'm just sitting back going, all right. And the minute my name goes onto that list, all of a sudden you just puff it out a little bit. That's right. Because I get on the plane before you. And I casually put my stuff away and get all cozy in my chair, get all my stuff set up, bring me a little glass of champagne, and then they let the peasants on. And they go, move along. Push the button because one guy's lingering too long. Can you move him along, please? That's literally all the time.
You're such a diva.
It's just you get the whole experience. That's the only chance you get.
Well, but I've been lucky to get people like Mr. Biggs, Rachel and all these people. And you know what? To be honest, I just asked them. People ask me how I've been able to get, because I've got an extremely small channel. How do I get these, these celebrities? Well, I mean, I'm not even 1,000, and how do I get these people? And I ask them. I'm polite, and I And a lot of them too, like Chris, I've been following. We've talked on your comments a few times and stuff. And you on Facebook and stuff, and I just comment on their content and stuff. But then I just ask them. That's it. I send them an email and say, hey, what do you think about this? And most of them say yes for whatever reason. So it is really that easy.
I never saw an email.
What's that?
Did you send me an email? I wouldn't know.
All right. It jumped on me here. I think we're getting down to the bottom of it. And Ricky says he's got some wild isopods in with his hissing cockroaches.
Yep.
Okay.
Cockroaches, all the cockroach species, there's only 2 that are legal to keep in Canada. All of them are illegal. I wish that I could keep and breed dubia roaches or red racers or any of those as a food source for the tarantulas and stuff, but they're all illegal. And to me, running a channel, even if I could access it from somebody, the problem being is, to me, the minute I show that is it changes the whole dynamic of the channel. It changes everything that you stand for. Yeah. Integrity, like to me, I follow some rules. You can't be somebody that's going to preach a message and then just go ahead and do it opposite in the back.
Yeah, just do whatever you want.
I'm the same person all the time.
Yeah. Zen Ginger said, I just heard Rico call Chris easy.
Oh, yeah. Like 10 cents, like a floozy.
All right. Well, you know what? I'm not seeing much left. I think we've run through the questions. And again, anybody, if you got them, throw them up there real quick. I apologize to the people that we missed. I did a horrible job with the chat tonight because I've been dying to talk to Chris for a long time. We finally got it nailed down, and
we could leave it a month or so, and we'll do it again one time when I'm on the road, and we won't have any chat at the beginning. We'll just do an open forum with Biggs and Rico.
There we go. You heard that, people, right? There we go. That way we can get to those questions and stuff, and we'll focus just on the chat instead of us just talking.
Maybe people want to talk about, breeding a certain fish or, something in what questions, any of the questions pertaining to any of the videos and stuff like that. But, they can actually put a comment on any video that I put out. I answer every single comment. Like right now, I know that I probably have 20 comments that I haven't been able to answer yet. Yes, I've heard of Tom Patterson. Is that Tom Patterson, the tarantula guy? Really? But
I don't think he's... No? I don't know. I know he's a fish guy. I know he's in Florida.
It's not the same guy I'm talking about, but that's okay. Yes, Dead South is a band from Regina. Regina is where my wife is from. I go to Regina every single 4 weeks. And I used to stay with her family, but now her family, we moved her parents. They live about a mile from us now. But yes, Dead South is a kind of a folk band, and they play the folk festivals and stuff like that.
They're amazing too. And In Hell, I'll Be with Good Company or something like that.
Yep.
Love that song. That song is just amazing. Love them. And Jimmy P made sure to let me know that I did a horrible job with the chat. Yeah.
Moxie Provis, I've heard of them. They're a Canadian band, but that's old.
That's we're talking
early 90s.
Early 90s. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know any songs by them. I wouldn't know at all.
And tell Biggs I'm joking. It's all good, Jimmy. It's all good. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and cut it off.
Thank you, everyone, for dealing with us for almost 2.5 hours of farm stories and whatnot. But thank you, everyone, for joining.
Appreciate it so much. And Chris, thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate every one of you guys in the chat. You know how it goes. You're all amazing. Next Tuesday, we have Zenzo Tazawa from Zenzo or Tazawa's Tanks.
He has to be 3 hours. I think each one of these has to be longer now.
Actually, you're the longest one.
That can't be a good thing.
Before this, it was 2 hours. Lisa from KG Tropicals was up for 2 hours. So you definitely went, you went for the record. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. And we'll do this again in a couple of months. Cool. So appreciate you guys.